First of all, thank you for inviting me. So, wow, that's loud. I appreciate it. Just want to express my appreciation. First, before I jump into this, just to say a couple of thanks about your great employees. We just feel lucky to be able to work with all the different folks in the school district. Gina and JJ over at Tech Ed, we work with them a lot, and they're just outstanding. All the principals and the high school counselors. We just always have a positive experience, and you just have really great staff and faculty. One thing I wanted to share with you quickly, I just got this today, was concurrent enrollment numbers for this year. We saw a massive increase in concurrent enrollment. We had 427 students last year that and these are unique students, and this year we jumped up to 534 students, so a huge jump. And they took 1,018 classes, which is up from 734 last year. So whatever you all are doing with concurrent enrollment, I think it's a great thing for the students. And then with Hannah Parker, who I think we stole from you all, she's been fantastic as well. To the Monument Valley Academic Building, I handed out some documents just to kind of give a quick overview. We have a final meeting next week up in Logan. It's like a 7-hour meeting to just get everything 100% finalized. But we're 99, this document is 99% of the way there. We're looking to have a groundbreaking on August 2nd is the tentative date right now. We're going to firm that up here in the next week or so. Likely will be at 10 a.m., but we should know in the next week or so, get that all finalized. And we'll get invites out to the board and all the folks in the area as well. A couple of really great things. Just flipping through the document, the front cover gives kind of a rendering of what the building will look like. This is if you're on the Gouldings Road right there looking south. That'll be kind of the face of it. The architects, we've worked a lot with our Native American staff and representatives down in the Monument Valley area to really try to represent the culture in the area. The second page really looks at kind of the color scheme that they're trying to pull from. Third page gives kind of a rendering of the interior. The top left photos, just the entryway, then the commons area, and then a hallway down the classroom. So really clean lines, a lot of earth tones that will be in there, and then we've got money set aside to have some artwork produced by local artists in there. The third page, and if anybody has follow-up questions, just reach out to me. Kind of gives the layout of the building. We'll have a welding lab in there. It'll have 8 booths. The intent is that we'll have a full-time welding instructor that will be located down in the area or teach down in Monument Valley to run a full-time welding program. Nursing lab, CNA lab, then a variety of classrooms, cooking space, meeting rooms, etc., that will be in there as well. And then the last couple of pages show the property line as we worked out with you all and with Tyrell, and then how the building, the last page, I think it's the last page, it shows how it'll sit on the property. You can see that the entrance will face east and the driveway will come in kind of, if you're on the Gouldings Road, it'll look like the entrance is on the back side of the building, but the entrance will be on that side. And then where it says retention pond down there, we're not going to have a pond. That's the leach field for the septic system that's going to be down there. A lot of the landscaping we're looking to be LEED Silver certified, so we can't touch a lot of the landscaping. We have to leave about 40% just untouched. or we have to restore it to its natural state. And so we're really working to try to leave as much of it untouched, but have some minimal landscaping right around the building that will make for a nice peaceful environment for the students. The projected timeline is 18 months on the build, and so we're hoping to be open and up and operating sometime around spring semester of 2026 is when we'll do our big event, our ribbon cutting as well. We're funded on the building. A lot of hard work went into that to be able to get the donors and people on board, and we have a couple of very significant 7-figure donors that really came in and helped to fund the building. So that was exciting to get that. And the Navajo Nation came in with $500,000 as well to help us fund the building. So, any questions?
That was going to be my question, because I know you were looking for, the last bit of funding for that. So that came from the Navajo Nation, that last bit, and just private donors or entities?
Yeah. So the state of Utah kicked in $5 million. The university kicked in $5 million. The Ty and Ray Norda Foundation kicked in $1 million. We have a private equity firm that wants to remain anonymous at just under $1 million. Some smaller dollars. The Navajo Nation at $500,000, and then there's a federal program called the New Market Tax Credit that some banks around the country kicked in some funding on this, and I don't understand the tax law. It was to help investments in rural areas, and so we were able to secure some of that funding as well. So when we pull it all together, we hit our target goal. So of $14 million. Yeah. So it's a $14 million budget. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a great building. It's gonna be awesome.
It is going to be lovely. I was just down there in Monument Valley on Monday in the old building, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we can't get out of this fast enough. So thank you to you for making this dream a reality. Thank you.
For being here, thank you. Do I see Brenda?
Tony Pelt is actually going to be.
Oh.
Brenda had an emergency.
Oh, hello, we're glad you're joining us, Tony. Thank you.
Mike Dudave, Nunania Tony Pelt, She'e Tony Pelt Yenishe, Nota Dene Nishle, Torachini Bashashchi, Nota Adashache, Gliziklan Dashanele. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Tony Pelt. I am the Native Youth Community Project Outreach Liaison and Student Advocate for the school district. I'm here on behalf of Brenda Whitehorse. She couldn't be here today. So also I represent the San Juan School District Native Youth Leadership Council as part of my NYCP Outreach Liaison duties. I also assist the council by promoting and advocating for the members. I chaperone, help plan, and coordinate the youth involvement. This proposal for the SJSD Native Youth Leadership Council with the 7 members, including Evan Keith, Yanaba Smith, Lance Begay, Shaylin Nez, LaDania Lopez, Linnea Israel, and Sailor Dandy. The San Juan School District Youth Leadership Council would like to attend the 2024 National Unity Conference on July 29th through July 3rd of 2024, which is held in Portland, Oregon. This trip is funded through the Native Youth Community Project Grant NYCP. Brenda Whitehorse, Joanna Bethea, and myself will be the chaperones. Attending the National Unity Conference will provide a chance for our youth council to gain hands-on leadership experience. And I'm pretty sure you guys received the draft agenda attached.
It should be 7 students.
Yes. Yes.
So, is your transportation also funded through this? Are you driving, flying, what are you,
I'm not sure on the transportation, but it is funded, yeah.
and are they driving or flying or stationary?
I believe it's flying, as I've seen the itinerary, yeah. I think that-
Okay. Perfect. Any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Jared, we have spend plans.
Good afternoon. Just following up on the Monument Valley spin plan, that was just adding a camp for the summer, and I don't know if there's any questions regarding the Monument Valley spin plan increase.
I got a question. It still says $13 and $32 on the amounts there. Are we gonna adjust that to reflect the current $14 and $40?
That's for this school year. Yeah. So once, yeah. So that will be reflected in the future ones for next year.
One more question. So the total $869 has now increased to $1,000 plus now?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And then for the golf spin plan for Whitehorse High School, so we did some research. We found out that Whitehorse did have golf program from 2008 to 2012, so that was just information. They used their practice field to kind of facilitate a lot of their needs of practicing golf out there, so that'll be kind of the plan moving forward, and there'll be special arranged plans to get on the golf course at certain times, but those will be arranged, probably not very many. And then just to give some information, they are planning to do a sign-up sheet for interest of students for the next school year who might be interested in joining golf, so that's kind of in the plans right now. And those are just kind of added information to just some of the, I think, questions that were out there about how this would look like and what would be facilitated for next year.
Any questions on that?
No.
Thank you for that update.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Murdoch, your preschool curriculum.
If you'll bring up the presentation, please, Jared. Let me get to it. Yes, that one. All right, I'll go through it. Hi, board. So today I'm going to talk to you about our preschool curriculum adoption. That'd be awesome. Thank you. This is going to go into effect for next school year. So you'll see that we went through a process, and one of the main reasons we're doing this, I'll give you kind of the background, but we actually have a partnership with Utah State University that we are working with them. They have a grant that's going to help us with all of this. So we have currently been using this curriculum called We Can. It's been in use for 10 years, and it's no longer a USBE approved curriculum. It's just old enough that it needs to be updated and changed. So we, as I came into this position, I was working through different processes to figure out what we could do to update our curriculum and help our preschools just become better, as I like to continually improve. So I attempted a couple different grants. One was the expanded student access grant, and you have to be eligible to apply for that. So Department of Workforce Services came down and did a couple evaluations and found that we weren't eligible for that. So they recommended the Becoming High Quality grant. I applied for that. We didn't get that. And through all of these attempts, USBE connected us with Lisa Boyce, who is a professor at Utah State up in Logan. She is over family studies and human development, and she has a grant through the Department of Health and Human Services that she's using in our area to help us with this. So that's where we've kind of come. That's our process and our history. What is going to happen is we'll enter an MOU with USU. If that's not enough acronyms, come to special education. So through that, 3 of the goals are we're looking for something that's culturally responsive, that really helps with kindergarten readiness, and then that we can grow our family and parent engagement on. That's going to be the MOU. That's going to happen. Utah State's going to do some things. We're going to do some things with that. So what are the benefits of this? We're getting a new curriculum. That'll be completely paid for out of the grant, so the district don't see any cost on that. She's wanting to implement summer STEM programs at TES, Bluff, and Montezuma Creek elementary schools for pre-K through third graders. And we've worked with our transportation, we've worked with food services to get arrangements for those things to happen. The grant's going to cover all of that. PD for teachers and paras at our preschools, specifically on implementing the new curriculum, but also around other things like autism supports. Our autism numbers since I've been in this position have grown about 300%, so just more and more students are receiving that diagnosis, and those autism supports are really important to help our teachers, our paras, work well with students of that. And autism is a wide range of different presentations, so how do we work best with those students? We are also, so I want to share with you our curriculum selection process, and that happened. We looked at curriculums that USBE has approved, and we looked at their reviews. We looked at curriculum presentations, and once we narrowed that down, we narrowed it down to a curriculum called Frog Street, Pre-K, and then Connect for Learning. Head Start and the Early Learning and Knowledge Center also had reviews that we looked at. And then we utilized a very similar rubric to what they used for the CKLA and Wonders evaluations. We used, that comes out of Oklahoma, so we used those things. And as a committee, we met and we went through all of those, and we're recommending the Connect for Learning curriculum to be adopted. And so this is the first presentation that we have of that. And that came out, we're also seeking parent feedback right now. So they can, parents have received an email from their preschool teacher seeking feedback. I've also set up a survey similar to how we set it up for CKLA to receive feedback. So that's on the homepage of the website. And then parents can contact me directly. We've sent it out to parents of returning preschoolers at this moment, and it's available to any parent that wants to make any comments. So that is our process. What questions do you have for me?
How long is this curriculum expected to be used?
It's in its second edition. It's just been updated to its second edition. So I think it has a normal lifespan of our curriculum. I think 10 years is too long, so 7-ish years. We'll keep watching what the trends are, but probably 6-7 years right in there.
And with the summer program,
Yeah.
who is that open to and how does that work? You said this,
Perfect.
this grant covers all
Yeah.
expenses.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah,
And then
so-
what months, what's
Good.
the time frame during the summer? Who's it open to?
Yeah. So each community, Lisa has worked with each principal to determine the best dates. It's looking like a couple weeks in June are working most for those 3 schools. And I don't think that they're all the same dates. So what's happening is pre-K through third graders whose parents want them to join this, they would get signed up, have permission slips. The grant is hiring teachers, hiring paraeducators to work with students during that time. They're providing the curriculum. Gina Grover and Shannon Dusnep have been working on science kits and curriculum, computer science curriculum things. There's connections there. So that it's open to any of those students who want to. Oh, it's also at White Mesa Community Center too. I apologize. Yeah.
Okay, so
And-
it's just by interest and
It's
not
by-
by any other type
Yeah.
of,
We're not requiring it. It's not by invitation. It's open to every student who wants to participate. Pre-K through 3.
and it'll be run for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
a couple of hours a day?
It's a full day. That's why
full
we're
day.
utilizing food services, and the grant's covering the cost of the food there too.
Okay, so how does that work with our kitchen? They are just automatically, I mean, do we have,
So just kind of like with our transportation, kitchen has people who could use some hours over the summer. They want to, so they'll employ those people to serve the food, prep and serve it.
okay, Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I know the grant covers the cost of this, are there ongoing costs beyond that, and will the grant still cover that?
Ongoing costs. So while this grant is in place, that's the summer program. After that, the summer program probably won't happen unless a new grant comes in and takes over that. As far as the curriculum goes, it's not a consumable curriculum, so everything is bought and purchased once we're trained. We've got it and we'll be able to implement it. So there should be no ongoing cost from there. The training, as long as we have the grant, we'll continue to receive trainings and participate in those to improve our practice.
Yeah, but I forgot it already, so
Okay,
Okay,
all
I'll
right,
ask you when I.
thank you.
perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Three. Two.
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 Don't give me
Unless
more
you
than
want.
is on there.
We'll give you more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope our mics are working, Jared, for online. We have, and I sent a link to Nan, so hopefully she has the link to the Zoom, but number 6 is just our payroll distribution. This is a follow-up, request of the board to do a survey. You have the survey results there in front of you. 274 responses were received by Friday afternoon when we posted this board agenda, and kind of gives a breakdown at the bottom of what the responses were by employee classification. So I guess I turn that over to you as a school board if there's further discussion or questions involved with this, or anything else we want to discuss regarding the payroll.
Is there 274 employees, or are there more?
So, okay, great question, and let me clarify. So we sent this to everyone that received any form of paycheck from us in this past pay period. So, and I believe our count was 699. And that, a lot of that includes, substitutes who may not work every month, temp employees and that kind of thing, but it was sent to everybody that received, a form of pay from us. So we definitely have more than 274 employees that work for us.
So you, as the business administrator, what does the survey tell you?
Well, that's a loaded question, Nelson. To me, it tells me that we have people who are in both sides of the camp. I think kind of like we knew from the past meeting that you have a big portion of your employees that would like to stay once a month, but you also have a large portion of your employees who would like to see us move to twice a month. And so to me, I feel like as the business administrator, it kind of just shows us that no matter which way we go from here, I don't know that everyone's going to be happy. That's maybe a cop-out answer, but I don't know how to better answer that.
Well, it's honesty. I'm asking you an honest question, and I think it's fair for everyone that is employed by the district that they have a chance to do this survey and that they're aware of it. And I'm hoping it's something that they could look to, that the two payments a month would be beneficial for them. So I'm still on that side of the fence.
Any other comments?
Yeah. I guess I was surprised by the survey results a little bit. I kind of figured it would come back kind of the opposite of what it did, thinking that this is, for the benefit of employees. So given this survey result, I guess I'm not as a big a proponent as I have been. If that's what the employees want to stay, and this district saves money by not having that extra payroll processing, then it's a win-win.
Well, then if that's the case, then maybe we ought to start a discussion of maybe doing 2 separate payrolls then. Because the lower numbers I'm seeing are the ones that I've been advocating for that are in the need of this bi-monthly payments. and those that are, I mean, we had one here that was at the last board meeting that was suggesting that they stay with the once a month because of their monthly financial. But any financial situation, those can be changed. All you got to do is call your creditors and your financiers to switch those dates. So it's possible. These other folks are in the same situation on the other side too. So it goes both ways.
So, let me ask you this, Tyrell, how many, maybe it's on there and I just am not looking at it right. Let me just look real fast. How many, I see how many took the survey, but how many classified employees do we have? Do you know that generally?
Nope, I anticipated that question may come up. So I did work with Laura just to kind of get an idea, and so we only had, you can see at the bottom of the survey results, the classified, what were we at, like 57 that responded that were in that category. What number did we come up with, Laura? I should have written it at 230? Somewhere in there is how many classified employees we have. So we only received, from that group, we only received the 57 responses. There's another 100 and however, 50 out there, 200 out there that did not respond to the survey.
I think one thing that would have been helpful for me to know is when we were asked this question, said, should employees be paid twice a month or once a month? There was a lot of information given to us of what it would take to make that happen, which is helpful information. And my concern is this was a straight question. Do you want to be paid once a month or twice a month? I mean, which category do you associate with, and which option do you prefer? And so I feel like without them having that information about what it could be an extra employee at the school district, those types of things that I don't know what this means to me when they didn't have the information we had when we were asked this question.
Well, let me speak to that a little bit too. So the email that we sent that had the survey link included a link to board docs and directed people to those meetings and letting people know that the board has had this discussion for a couple of months, and that if they were looking for additional information about the impacts of this, they could listen to the discussion and review the documents that were in on board docs, where the audio files are kept and where those documents that were presented were there. Obviously, we didn't want to, as the business administrator for the school district, and it coming from my email that we send it to everyone, I didn't want to provide so much information that it's, sounded like I was trying to convince an employee to vote a certain way. We kept it anonymous and allowed people to respond to the survey however they felt they should respond without trying to sway that vote one way or the other. So we just provided a link to the board docs and so that they could have that information if they wanted to access it, rather than try to put that in some kind of form in the survey. It was provided in the email that we sent with this.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Have we had any other inquiries past the survey time saying that they want to go either or which way, like a late response?
I received, I checked, was it Monday or yesterday, and I had 2 more, so 276. When we looked, we sent it out, not this past Friday, but the previous Friday, and when I checked on the following Monday, we had 240 something responses, and then the rest kind of trickled in. So, I mean, if we left it open even for another month, you'd see probably a few more trickle in, but I think the majority kind of responded within those first few days, and then we've seen a couple trickle in, but there was only 2 more additional responses since it closed when I checked earlier this week.
Do you feel, since we're at the end of our school year, that it makes a difference as opposed to, should we ask this at the beginning of the next school year? Do you think the responses will be different? I know that's a far-fetched question to ask.
I'm not sure that, I guess I don't know if that it would have an impact. I think people would, whether it's the beginning or the end.
Because
of the school
circumstances
year.
change, of course, but,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
I feel like the teachers that are members of the group, Teachers Association, probably have a bigger survey results, and I think they have the upper hand versus the people that are classified and such as bus drivers, paraprofessionals, because they're not full-time. So it's not going to matter how many surveys we do. It's just, that's honest again. It's going to come out again every time we do the survey. That is why I opposed the vote last month that we do not do the survey, because it's going to happen over and over.
Are you saying in the sense, Nelson, that like those full-time, like the teachers are people that are more regularly at a computer or more likely to respond to the survey
Too. That
type of
too.
thing, or?
That too. We had a representative here last month and a member. So I have not seen a community member from here or online yet speaking to this yet from other areas.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll move forward on our Blanding Elementary School follow-up.
All right. Just want to point out a couple of things here. So we have a few things that we'll discuss. We'll start with bids for that, Westland, BDK, MHTN have all been a part of this process and project. You have on your board docs the summary of the cost breakdown for this project. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. We talked about this back in February. We were about at our 50% point in February. Westland had provided us with a cost estimate back in February, and that was back when we made the decision to add 3 classrooms. If you recall that meeting, we added some additional space and classroom space to the building. When we started that conversation out by saying with the 50% documents that we're at and with what Westland is projecting or estimating, it had the cost per square foot was higher than what we were anticipating, and it was the overall cost of the project had kind of gone up from what we had originally estimated back in whether it was the summer or fall of the previous year, I can't remember. And so we were aware of it at that time that it was going to be higher, and then we added the classrooms, and we knew from a fiscal standpoint what we were adding was an additional 3,000 square feet with those 3 additional classrooms, and we were looking at $1.5 million, that we were adding to the project. And so I just kind of want to point out one positive note from this process. That 50% estimate that they provided to us at that time did not include those 3 classrooms. And the total cost of construction at that time was $45,800,000. So we were at 45.8, almost 0.9 million at their estimate at that point in time. And now you can see even after adding the 3 classrooms, we actually came in lower than what that 50% estimate was for their GMP. So that is for us, a really good thing. I think it shows, we had talked at that time in February about, we wanted to make sure we were taking things out of the building that didn't need to be there, reducing costs in certain areas. And that's a direct, I think, result of some of those efforts that were made from a lot of different people to try to scale back in areas that we just felt were in excess. And so, and what we see with this GMP that Westland has provided is that, even though it's still right there at the 45.6 for hard construction costs, it's actually lower than what they provided, the 50% that did not include those 3 classrooms. So I know Mark is here with us today. If there's any questions, Mark from Westland with Westland Contractors is here. If there's any questions for me or for him, happy to answer them, but that's kind of just the breakdown that you have in a summary of the bids that were received and opened by Westland.
You guys have questions?
Okay, I will.
Yes, please come forward. You get the hot seat for a minute.
Okay. Is there a cost savings agreement in the contract shared by the school district and Westland?
As far as if we get something cheaper, we give the money back?
Or how does that cost saving agreement work if that's is there wording? You were talking about, so now, and I'm thrilled about that we've added space, that there's space was added and it's not costing more. So I'm just, so that made me wonder if there's a cost saving agreement and how that works. Do we share in that cost savings, or is it all the school districts?
It's all the school. So the way it works is as we produce budgets, as we reach out and get information off of the information that we have in plans, and we gather that information, that's where we're getting our cost estimates. And we base it off of historical data and current market. And as we gather that, once we put it out to bid for actual construction costs, that cost savings is 100% yours. I mean, that's how it works. So, so what we try to do, and what was nice about how this process worked is VDK was running a separate cost estimate than us, and ours were aligning pretty close, and we had no communication between our team and their team as far as where those costs were coming in until we had those budgets put together. And that included this final bid, and our costs were lining up very, very close. A lot of what you're seeing in this savings is competitive bidding. A lot of guys, as you're doing estimates, there's a lot of unknowns. And so as they go through and through the bid process, they take the information that's there that is more complete at that point, and we have a more competitive type of bidding, which always generates better cost.
Okay. A couple of other things. So in this is the money that goes directly to Westland, and we have additional costs with this build. And so I'm trying to identify like what this includes and what it doesn't include, because what it doesn't include, then that's an additional cost to the school district above this $45,600. So for instance, it's all the kitchen equipment for the kitchen in here. There's nothing else. Okay, playground equipment, whiteboards, everything that the teachers need. Okay, so you're making this easy. So what are the things that this does not include? I guess that's a better question at this point.
I can try to tackle that one, Mark. So this is the hard cost, construction cost for the new building. There are some other costs, as you mentioned, so you don't see in this amount, there's nothing in here that is like your design team fees, right? So what we had to pay an architect to design this project. So this is just the hard construction cost. There is, and we're gonna actually talk about this a little bit later as we look at that budget, our budget period, but this project, with all of the costs, everything from day one till we are in the building, we're looking at, it's going to be still 51.5 million. That includes the contingency, but with all of those other costs, that's design fees, construction management fees, other fees like materials sampling and testing fees that we'll pay and contract individually as an owner. And inspection fees, those kinds of things, and some of those we've already incurred costs. that we've been paying, and so those are not included in this number. This is just the general contractor GMP for those hard costs. But there are still other costs out there that we will pay, and it'll be the 51.5 that we'll look at. And when we look at our budget for next year, we can talk about that a little bit too. But there are those other costs.
Okay, let's see. I can't remember what else I had, but maybe it'll come to me if. See, I made some notes.
Yes, go ahead, Steve, sorry.
Okay. So help me understand these numbers better. All of the Division X numbers, those are subcontractors that have put in a bid, and those are the lowest bid that's come back for the subcontracting elements.
The
Is that
lowest
right?
qualified bid, correct. So as we break down, there's a standard that we work off of between architects and contractors that as the divisions. So you'd have like Division 26 is electrical. So as we break that out, that ensures that we have complete bids, or that we have coverage on the projects. We're not missing items in the bid. So each of that represents subcontractors' bids. I mean, there's multiple bids in each category. We just summarize it so it's easy to read. So yes, that's representative of our subcontractors' bids and a complete bid on the project.
So there's no more estimates in these numbers, it's bid numbers then?
Correct.
And then I'm just interested, what kind of response did you get for subcontracting bidding?
We had some great response. We had at least 3 bids per category. We solicited, the way we solicit, we run ads in the paper so it gets local interest as well, but we cast a net of, we draw about a 500-mile circle around the project, and the software that we use will advertise that to subcontractors. So, I mean, reaching down Cortez, Durango, Salt Lake, St. George, we had interest from all over. And as we collected, the other thing that we have is as we get that interest, we gather the subcontractors in that radius, then our team reaches out and talks to each of those contractors to see if they're bidding, if they're not bidding, if they have questions. They run all their questions through us, which generates a very long log of our ability to reach out to each subcontractor to give them an opportunity. We do this just to fulfill the procurement law and make sure that we're all on the right pace there, which we will provide all that information to Tyrell. So if there is any questions, all that information will be there. So yes, we reached out wide and far, and our goal is always at least 3 subcontractors per trade or category, and we achieved that very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did have a question. Looking at Division 0, general conditions, and Division 31, earthwork, my brain was automatic to think that because one of the big costs was going to be fixing the ground so that it's able to be built upon. Are those 2 in the same thing, or how are those differentiated?
Between the existing conditions?
The general condition and the earthwork.
So general conditions is a couple categories. It's basically what it takes us to function as a company and manage the project. There's a few other things that go into that. As far as, I think what you're looking probably more is towards existing conditions, which is category 2.
Okay.
And earthwork. That includes everything it's going to take to make the site constructable. One thing to note that we were, originally it was trending at, I can't remember the exact number, we ended up about 2 million lower in our dirt package, which I was very happy to see. As we comb through that, it just means that we had a good geotech report, and but there's still a lot of dirt to move.
Okay, thank you.
To get it flat enough for school. So yeah, I think as far as your question, existing conditions and dirt work are, they're similar in as far as what we're dealing with on existing conditions. There's not much. It's some site demo. It's that sort of thing, but the initial dirt package is what really gets the site where it needs to be.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Yes, once we got on the topic of subs.
Yeah.
So the subcontractors for this school has been on the high end of interest from the community, community members generally, and people who have the possibility of working on our building. But even for people who would not be working on it, that's been, besides the size of the building, that's been the one topic that people have mentioned to me, that they hope that our local people will have the jobs to do this building. We've, as you know, or probably know, we've built quite a few buildings recently in San Juan County. And we're the poorest county in the state and one of the poorest in the country. So it's a big deal for people here, the local people, to have work. And so I'm really concerned about seeing those bids and seeing how that has come out. And I talked to Tyrell just a little bit before the meeting and am concerned. And maybe you can clarify this, because we didn't get a chance to really finish the discussion. But I know that there's a possibility of, if you're not just the absolute lowest, that there's other factors that can be considered. And we've done that in the past on the board with some of these other builds. And it appears that we haven't been involved in that process at all, that Tyrell hasn't been in that process working with you to come up with those contractors that have been, and I don't know, so have they been chosen at this point, or they are about to be chosen and finalized?
Right, so the subcontractors that we are proposing have not been notified that they're awarded the project.
Okay.
yet. The ones that we are proposing, local subs in multiple categories. The other part that we have to look at is qualified. And qualified is, there's a size of building that we're building, and there's a pace that we have to go at. Obviously, the subcontractors that are not local are always looking for some help locally, and they're happy to work out in those areas, as far as manpower. I know that our dirt work guys who do a lot of school builds have reached out to multiple local subs and are working and will be working with them so long as we move forward with it. But yes, we're always looking for local help, but we have to make sure that we can build this thing in a timely fashion and keep the pace. And there's always a balance there, right?
Okay, thank you for that. And then, so with that, there's this next step, since they haven't been notified, is that we can work directly with you before they're notified and approve that list and have any questions answered that we want answered in looking through those, what the subs have submitted.
Yeah, no, we can definitely comb through that.
Okay.
But we definitely need to be careful though, and make sure that we've got qualified people to do it.
Yes, well, I'm not advocating at all that we get people who are not qualified to do a job just because they're local, but to consider and balance that. And I know we've done that in the past, and there's been experience with, or a company or an entity that nobody knows anything about, not sure about their work, but an entity that there's been a lot of experience with and know and understand their capabilities and their work. And so those types of things. And so if we still have an opportunity to do that and work closely so that people right here in San Juan County are helping to make those decisions, that'd be great.
think the
Okay.
other part of that,
Right.
just so we
Yeah, go
can
ahead.
understand, is we work closely with BDK and the architect to work through this. I mean, we've met twice now through that process, so maybe you can.
Yeah, actually,
Help
the reason I'm
understand
setting
that
up is that Chris, person with BDK's project director for this is online right now, and he said he has a couple of comments on that.
Okay. Tell him, if you can get him, Tyrell, just have him, while we're doing that, did you have a question?
I did. I just wanted some clarification. You did say that you look down, and if they're qualified, they will be notified or given the bid. Is that correct?
So the way the process works is I do not award anything until I've been awarded it.
Right, right.
Which means, once you approve the GMP and the list, that's when we proceed.
Thank you.
So and Tyrell, either one of you could answer this. I see the concern in wanting to know who may have kind of their hands in this as far as subcontractors, but I pose a little bit of danger with not looking at it wholly as a board. That, for example, if that's a concern of yours, Mary, then you're looking at that, but that those decisions are not made by one individual. I mean, I get the whole idea of having local people, but I feel like if decisions with those subcontractors in there just because of some give and take, if they're local or not, should not be given just with some input. It should probably be a board input. Does that make sense?
In the past, our school district has not given sole responsibility to the outside entity to make those decisions. We've retained in our past builds the opportunity, or we've retained that partnership in making those decisions. And so that is all I'm suggesting at this point, or asking that we review that and make sure and have our questions answered as board. We're the ones responsible to the public here in San Juan County and the money that's being spent. And so that we do that before they are awarded, and that there is.
Yeah, and I'm open to the look at it, but
I
I'm a
think
little concerned that
point
we're
of order.
saying, yes?
We are discussing contractors' report, not employment.
Correct. However, that's the thing that we're discussing is if there's subcontractors within one of these divisions that, I'm assuming, Tyrell, that would be you overseeing that decision completely. Is that correct? Yeah, go ahead. Have him come on. No, absolutely.
Can speak to a lot of the
Okay.
legal questions that surround some of this.
Sure.
Chris can speak to that.
Oh,
Chris, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to talk. Can everyone hear me all right?
hold on just a sec. We'll get you a little louder.
Go ahead and try, Chris.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to clarify a couple points, and I appreciate what Mark was saying, and I appreciate the concern. It's been a concern of the community and the board since we started this process. So I just want to point out, first of all, Westland has had in addition to the parts that Mark is talking about, Westland has had an intensive reach out process. He talked a little bit about the computer process, but a number of, as many local contractors as we could identify over the course of the months who could perform the work qualified in the manner that Mark's talking about. When we say qualified, we're not just talking about whether or not they could perform the work in the time frame possible. There's other things like bonding capacity, insurance capacity, workload, other things like that that all play into that. It's a lot of extensive work is done into that. Then there was a public bid process where they were contacted, allowed to provide a bid, and in that public process, in that time frame, we operate under state procurement law. So that the bids that were received in that time frame were the ones that were evaluated. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, no local subcontractor that completed the scope of work that was requested as part of the documents was disqualified in that process.
That's correct.
That's correct. There were a couple of local subcontractors who we had intensive conversations with who ultimately elected not to bid because of the workload requirement stuff. Several local subcontractors are the planned awarded subcontractor right now. Other subcontractors are actually talking to locals in terms of maybe subletting even to those subcontractors for specific workload requirements, labor assistance, other things like that. We really have had an extensive outreach to subcontractors to qualify. And if they didn't do within that, if they didn't be part of that public bid process, we're kind of past the point where we can really go out there and ask somebody else to bid the project. You know, we had the timelines involved. It was a public outreach. We've reached out to a large.
Okay, I'll call the point of order here because nothing like that was ever suggested. So let's not continue to go down that road that anybody believes that we are going to go out and try to get people to be involved at this point.
Okay, that's all I was asking is, and I was
That was never the question.
Okay, well, I'm simply saying is that I was trying to simply point out that there has been an extensive process and that.
Let me go ahead and.
We feel very confident with this price that we've recommended, qualified subcontractors, including as many locals as possible, because quite frankly, it's a win-win. It's win-win for the contractors because local people, are less expensive. We don't have to pay an out-of-town worker to come into town. And it provides local employment, and it's much more stable. There's all kinds of reasons why this is a win-win.
Yeah, let me interject here, Chris. So, I mean, I think, Mary, to your point, what you were asking earlier, if the board elects tonight to approve this GMP that Westland has provided, this is their bid package that they've identified with all these subcontractors. Before we issue the notice to proceed, we can get with, well, my mic just shut off. We can get with Mark and his team, and just review everything again in depth before we issue that notice to proceed and just make sure that we have, comb through and fine tooth comb with everything and go over that with him, and we can get with, ICANN with our buildings and grounds team and, with BDK and Westland and everyone, and we can go through that and just identify and make sure if there's any questions or concerns that we have about it, we can identify those. We've gone through an extensive process up to this point, and feel confident in what Mark's team has done to get us to this point,
But
Okay, that's what I asked for. And Nan and I were assigned to be on this committee to help with the bill as board members for Blanding Elementary. If Nan's out of the, soon to be out of the country, but if she's not back, then I'm available to do that. But thank you to both of you.
So, real quick, but if this is an agenda item and we approve it, and then you go through it again, what happens if we want to change there?
I think you're probably just
Because-
looking for more of a clarification on who we're using as a local subcontractor, and was everyone given an opportunity?
And not was everyone given an opportunity. I think that's been clear that anybody who wanted to submit bids, it has been given an opportunity. But just to look through those as Tyrell has mentioned and, kind of answer any questions and then move from there. Okay, thank you.
Tyrell, correct me if I'm wrong, that's something we would look into as a board, not as an individual. Is that correct? That's something we would ask of you if we wanted to look into and review who the subcontractors and contractors. But as far as I understand it, we hired Westland and BDK to go through this process. So the confirmation of how they're going about it is something we had already approved on. Am I wrong? Or is that correct? Or can you expand on that?
Yeah, so I think all we're talking about here is just making sure that, from an administrative standpoint, I guess we're saying just to do another fine tooth comb, go through everything. And we can do that. We certainly have no problem or issue doing that with our team here. I don't think anything we're talking about today is to materially change anything with what Westland has provided as a GMP. If the board makes that decision, that wouldn't be anything we would be doing. There wouldn't be any change that we would do administratively because if there was a change that would have to be done with the GMP, would have to come back to the board. So that wouldn't be something that we would be looking doing, just more going through and review everything.
Hi, Will, can I make one last point
Yes.
to what the board member was asking? As we showed last week when we were going through this with you, Westland has all of those reports that can show their outreach, that can show all the different subcontractors, and we've asked them to supply those reports. I think that would go a long way in satisfying the request that's been made.
That's a review.
Wait.
Okay, and again, that's not my question, is did you go
Point of
far
order.
and wide enough and make sure everybody had an opportunity? I feel like that's been answered. Just the final, just the decisions and looking at it, and, Nan and I are on that committee, so.
Point of order.
Nelson, go ahead.
It sounded to me like that was Brian Parker online there, rather than Chris. Mark, I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
You didn't have to hear all this. This is board, to me, it's board matter. We should have dealt with this off to the side. But that is my point that I've been getting to from the last discussion. We tend to worry about others than employees that work for us in this district. That was my point. And you heard that. But I have trust in MHTN. I have trust in contractors that they work with. This is not our first school. We built schools. And I know the process. So I have faith in you guys.
Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thanks for being with us.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Have a safe drive.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are going to go down to our board reports, or our director reports. Apologize. Okay, Miss Amanda, are you ready?
You can unplug mine, Nelson. If you need, if there's not a plug. Is there one? Oh, you've got one? Okay. Okay. No, mine's fine. I just thought you might need it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You get to tell us about the wonderful school of LaSalle.
Look at that, they gave me control of the clicker.
I know, right?
That's kind of special.
So, it is special.
I just got off of a field trip, and so Julie was saying I smell like smoke because I made bison burgers for the kids out there on a grill, and it was wonderful. And we just really enjoy, being the best of rural Utah. And we really like showing the kids kind of what's around them, and I make it a goal every year with field trips to make sure that we take the kids to somewhere that their families haven't taken them. So we went to Wolf Springs Ranch up in Old LaSalle, and it was lovely. We took a horse-drawn carriage ride, and we played tag, and we made butter, and it was wonderful. But I smell like bison burgers. I always say this every time I present to you guys, but when you look at our data, please don't look at us the same way you do everyone else. Percentages don't mean a lot when you have like 3 kids. It's hard for us to make goals that way. So when you look at our data, I just want to tell you about some of the great things that are happening for us. But data doesn't, if your N size is smaller than 10, it really doesn't work the same way. So things are going well for us though. This year we did make goals. We wanted 100% of kindergarten students, we have 3 of them, 100% of kindergarten students to be on level for spring math. We asked for 75% of second grade students to make an increase in their oral reading fluency. And we worked as a staff to increase our
knowledge and practice. The first quarter, we worked on knowledge of teacher clarity, and this time it was more about the practice and implementation of that. I've worked really hard on it myself and really hard on having students do some self-assessment in thinking about, okay, I see that that's my learning target, and I know, how do I feel like I can do it? I had a little second grader tell me, I'm just not so sure that I can recognize a prefix yet. So I think I'm here. And so we do a thumb measurement. And I've worked really hard on that, and Mrs. Holt has come out a few times to help us with that, and we're really thankful for her support. Again, our data doesn't really look like other data, but we are headed toward things in kindergarten. One of the things that we've noticed, I had Mr. Wingate pull some data across the district and then for my school in particular, and one of the things that we noticed is my kindergartners come in lower than any kindergartners in the district. Typically 0% proficient at the beginning of the year. And so with Christy's help and with Julie's support and lots of people helping me out, we were able this year to implement a preschool. We did it within our normal day. We did not add budget. We did not add staff. We didn't add anything except for lunches for the preschoolers, which Anna helped us out with. We are very thankful to her. And we have seen growth like, I can't even wait to look at this slide for next year. Our kindergartners, our preschoolers score like, so preschool doesn't have assessments like everybody else. They're just supposed to hang out, I guess. But I don't know how to teach that way, so we assess anyway. And so I've been giving them some kindergarten versions of assessments, and they score like middle and end of year kindergartners now. And so we're really excited to see what that looks like next year as they come into kindergarten. It's been fun for us actually, having preschool. They're just so happy, and they're very small. Our progress, we are making progress. We work every single day to make progress, and everyone does. I know that this is one of the hardest working districts. Everybody works really hard to make sure that we keep our eyes on what students need. Our kindergartners are almost there. We have one that's really close, but they are very, very close to making that 100% goal. And I don't write 100% goals ever, but I thought this year they really could do that. I'm excited to see how they do it. Our data day is not until next week, so I don't have final numbers for you yet. Really excited to see how it goes, though. And when we added preschool, one of the things that we didn't want to have happen was to take time away from the other students. And because that's a big job, right? We teach several grade levels at a time in a very different setting. But it's been really interesting the way the other students have responded to their preschool friends, and primarily the kindergartners, because the kindergartners went from being the babies to now they got to be the big kids, and that was really fun for them. And so they have all, I don't think, looking at data and looking at the way that students are responding at this point in the year, that it has made any effect on their scores. So that was something I really wanted to be careful to make sure that everyone was making progress. One of the things about LaSalle, and the reason we worked so hard to get this preschool started, was because parents in LaSalle don't have other options. They could theoretically come to Monticello for preschool, but I don't know a lot of parents that want to drive their child in for a 2-hour preschool and then go and pick them up and bring them back. Parents work, there's Waterford options, but otherwise there's not daycare, there are very few babysitters. It's not a community where we have a lot of choice. And so that has really helped our parents. We've had lots of positive feedback about that. And I really want to take a second. We have had, when you have such a very small staff, one person being sick makes a huge difference to the whole staff. And we had some issues in our kitchen this year. Our cook resigned, And Anna Fredericks has driven out every day to cook lunch for us. Some days I'm in there cooking lunch on occasion. I cook breakfast every day. And we really want to publicly thank our maintenance team and our food services. They really, really respond. If I ask maintenance for anything, they are there within a day and a half. They are just out there as quickly as possible. And I think that's remarkable considering that we're so far out. And we just have a great time at our school. I invite everyone to please come see us. We love it. Lori comes out a few times a year, and we really like having her come visit us. We're the best school, honestly. Sorry to everybody else, but we really are. We definitely have such a fun population, a lot more relaxed than some other schools, but we really enjoy what we do out there. And as far as challenges, we're doing our best. We're doing it really well, and we get the district support that we need anytime we need it. And so I don't have anything to say as far as challenges that we would like help with from this group.
Any questions for Amanda? Comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, there's just some days I wonder, just north of the school there was an old uranium mine shaft. Is that still there? Do you know?
So it is, and then the Pandora mine that produced throughout the 80s, my dad worked there for a time, is reopened. My cousin reopened it with some financial backers and a few other men, and it is actually the primary employer right now in LaSalle. And so they are back underground mining uranium. I think I have 4 parents who are employed there. So that's a fairly large percentage of our school.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you. I will say you've got such a positive, you bring so much positivity, and it's reflected in your report and those kids, and thanks for what you do. It's awesome.
We have a lot of fun. So come and see us.
And she does very, very cute programs. If I can't be there, but she'll send them to me, and they are so fun. They're having fun out there. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're glad you're with us. Thank you. Okay, CTE. It looks, Gina, you're both coming up. Yes, wonderful.
This is not a one-person job. JJ is a very integral piece of CTE, so I don't know if he'll talk a lot, but but we're glad that he's here. It was interesting when we put this report together. The very first slide, there's some notes on it that say to kind of address how your programs contribute to the portrait of a graduate and which portions your goals work towards. And when you look at portrait of a graduate and all of the different attributes of those portrait attributes, knowledge and skills and attitudes, I think CTE courses check every box on every single one. So we feel like our classes really contribute a lot to the attributes we want our students to have. So that being said, our goals this year as a CTE department, we met with our CTE teachers. Wait, time out. Before I go any further, it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and nothing that we would be talking on any of these slides would be possible without our teachers. Like they rock. They are absolutely, they are amazing. I feel like every year we're asking more and more and more, and they just step up to the plate. So they did meet with us, and we worked through a lot of our data to come up with the goals for this year. So for Perkins funding, we have 9 indicators, and the state sets goals for the state and for our district to meet. And so we looked through all the data for those indicators, and our CTE faculty picked out 2 of those indicators to work on. Statewide, there is a CTE goal to close the gap by 2030. So to look at all the different opportunity gaps throughout CTE and to close those gaps. And these were the 2 that our teachers chose to focus on first. So the first one talks about secondary placement. So that looks at students who are concentrators at in the high school level, so meaning they took an Explorer course and a Concentrator course in CTE. It looks at what they did after they left our high schools. And so it looks at if they are employed, or if they're in the military, or if they went on to post-secondary education. And this is a place where we feel like we had a lot of room for growth. This is the only place where we haven't met the state target in the last 4 years. We did meet it this year, but the previous 3 years we hadn't. And it's a little bit hard. One big contributor to that is that students who serve an LDS mission following high school, they are not reflected in this data anywhere. And so we lose a large portion of our students. They don't show up on this data, so our data seems really low. But when we look at this, there's a lot of gaps, but our goal was to increase it by 1.6% to really make sure that we're hitting the state target for our district. And we'll talk about progress on the next slide, but that was one goal that was identified. And that really is going to include a lot of work with our post-secondary partners. And we appreciate Christian mentioning our partnerships when he spoke to us, because we do have such a great partnership with USU, and we appreciate that. The second goal that our teachers chose to work on was our concentrator and completer rates. JJ started working with a lot of data. He's spent a lot of time looking at transcripts. And concentrator data has a really large impact on our school report cards in the career readiness area, a large impact. And we're losing some big bang for the buck there by not having intentional coursework and course progression for our students. And so that was another area that our teachers really feel like we could have a big impact on. So that was why the second goal was chosen. And the third goal was chosen, and this was more of a district administrator goal than the teacher identified goals of what the first and second goals. But really, we feel like our students can earn such a competitive advantage when they earn industry and skill certifications. And we really want to give them that leg up once they leave our institutions. And so JJ's really big push this year has been to work with teachers and identify industry credentials that our students can earn while they're in high school, so that they can really kind of have just a leg up when they leave here and have that competitive advantage above other students that they might, or other job candidates that they might be competing against. So those were the goals that we chose to work on this year. And so the progress towards our first goal for secondary placement, one big step has been utilizing U-Science. So U-Science is an aptitude and interest platform. And we're working with school administrators to really look what that looks like to roll out in our middle school and high school in 9th grade, for sure 9th grade, possibly again in 11th, and then they're doing it in middle school as well. But really it shows our students what they have an aptitude for and what they have an interest for. And really using the data from the brain games is what they're called, but using the results of those interest and aptitude surveys to help give some of our students some guidance and direction in what they're doing. And it gives counselors a really great talking point when they're meeting with our students and with their parents on CCR days. And it really helps our teachers as well to say, hey, this student has a real aptitude for computer science, but they're not in my computer science class. What do I need to do to reach out to get them involved? And then how do we help use that? Because U-Science is a platform that can follow them once they graduate. So let's implement all this here, and then they can take it to help them as they leave us and go towards their future goals. Our second progress bullet is just strengthened relationships within our consortium, and even within our district. We have a lot of islands in our district. We have a lot of teachers who don't have another teacher to collaborate with and to talk with. And so really strengthening relationships with people in their same career cluster has helped them make the connection to post-secondary. A good chunk of our teachers just recently attended a PLC, consortium-wide PLC, so they met in Moab, and they had opportunities to talk with their counterparts from Grand, Emory, Carbon, and then they were able to meet their USU counterparts to say, hey, like, these are my students and how do I get them to you? But to really make sure that they knew what options were out there, because some of our teachers don't know the next steps for our students. And so it was really great to start those conversations. And there's been a lot of really great talk already. We're super excited for the results from that.
And that will continue beyond just that
Yeah,
one isolated time. That PLC
Will continue.
for years.
Yeah. The third is just increased focus on industry credentials, and we kind of already talked about that one, but that gives our students a little more confidence as they either enter the career fields or post-secondary education. And the fourth one is just increased engagement and opportunities with their post-secondary counterparts, and that one has been really great. That really is in partnership with USU. We've had a lot of trips, students who've gone to see the welding facilities, the trucking equipment, the health science buildings, the business department. Like there's been a lot of field trips and excursions to really make sure that they see what's available here for them. We have so many students who are anxious to leave home, but it's so comforting for them to realize that they could stay here and receive a very quality education without having to leave home. So it's been exciting. We've had a lot of really great feedback on that. Our second goal was our concentrator and completer rates, and we've had a big jump in our percentages on this, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. But so far progress has included much more intentional master schedules and scheduling of students, and it ties in with that second bullet with counselor support from teachers in district. Like we've been meeting, Trevor is great to include us in their quarterly counseling meetings so we can come and talk to them and make sure that we're all on the same page as far as getting our students along the pathways and how to schedule them in their courses. But one big step that we've been working on for like 3 years is to have a visual in Aspire. So our students and their parents and our counselors are all able now to go in, and it will show pathways as they start selecting courses for their upcoming years, and we'll start tracking them that way. So that's been a big...
It will look like the graduation tracker that's already there, but then they can track where they're at with their CTE
So
classes.
we're really excited, and that one ties in with the very last bullet. There's been a lot of conversations with USBE that being able to track our students and follow them along, it's been hard. It's hard to track all of our students and what they're doing. But USB is finally on board with understanding that there is a big need there, and so they're starting to have conversations with the SIS developers, and we've had conversations with the Aspire guru who writes a lot of code for Aspire to develop a CTE pathway graduation evaluation report, which is similar to a credit evaluation, but it will show us a CTE pathway evaluation. So we're really excited about those. We also feel that just educating parents and students is instrumental in having them go along their pathways. A lot of our students still don't understand what it is, and we're working hard to break into that whole area so that we all understand what it is and the benefit that it offers to our students. And so we've had CTE nights in our schools, and they've been well attended, and we've had a lot of information. Yeah, really great. And then just industry conversations, making sure that we have industry partners that we can guide our students to as they leave us, that they know their next steps and have some information for them. And our last goal for our industry credentials, JJ has been working really, really hard on this to identify. The first step is just to identify what credentials are out there for each different pathway, and then identifying what ones are already available to us and which ones we need to look elsewhere for and try to bring in. And they do, most of them will come at a cost, but we've been able to leverage some work-based learning funding to be able to cover those costs for students so that earning these credentials doesn't cost them anything, but they can walk out of our institutions with a industry credential. Some of the ones for this year that we've been able to implement is the Part 107 for drones, CNA, HIPAA, food handlers, Microsoft certifications, and Adobe certifications. But there's a lot more that are in the works. So we're excited to get with those. And we appreciate superintendent's work. She's had really great conversations with USU on being able to offer some of these more locally, because a lot of these we've had to transport our students to other locations, to certified testing centers to be able to take. So that's also a work in progress, but it's exciting to see that they may have more local opportunities to earn those credentials. Some of our celebrations, we're always going to celebrate our CTSOs, our current technical organizations. Those students are amazing. They rock, and the experiences they have outside of the classroom change their lives. It really does. This year we had 487 members, registered and paid members of our CTSOs. They attended local leadership conferences and state conferences, and overcoming a lot of barriers to do so. It's hard to travel and be registered and get there. But out of those conferences, we had 13 students qualify to attend national conventions, and that means that they're competing with students from 1A to 6A schools. Like it says a lot for them to be able to compete on that level. And this year we have 3 state officers, which is pretty unheard of. We've only had a handful in the last 20 years, and we have 3 this year. So it's really exciting for the opportunities that those students will have, but also to give rural Utah a voice in all those board meetings that they'll sit on. So we're really proud of those students and the advisors who helped get them there. We really are loving U Science and the potential that it has to really have an influence in our pathways and our students. And so we just want to share one example. We were in a director's meeting, and Brenda Whitehorse was talking about teachers and a grow your own teacher program, and how do we really invest in that, and how do we start gauging interest on that. And we're like, oh, we have a way. So we pulled out some data. JJ dug into U Science and looked at the teaching as a profession pathway and pulled up students who had either an interest in teaching or an aptitude for teaching. And there were 60 students that were interested in teaching and 46 with an aptitude. And some of those could have had both, like they could have had an interest and an aptitude. But most of those are going untapped. Like those students aren't in our teaching as a profession pathway. So we can work with Brenda and identify those students and reach out to them and hopefully start getting some more interest. Hey, let's get in this course. So we're excited for the impact that could have. Increased CTE broadcast and concurrent enrollment courses. It is really hard to have equitable programs in our district because teachers.
Well, and CTE
so
is hands-on.
hard. It is. It's hard, and we might be able to get a welding teacher in one community, but we can't get it in another. Or we might be able to find a health science teacher for one community, but not for another. So it's really hard to be able to offer all the programs through all the schools. But we want those opportunities for all of our students. So we're really trying to leverage broadcast courses and concurrent enrollment courses. We have some new broadcast courses for concurrent enrollment coming up. USU is an incredible partner to offer some new concurrent enrollment courses, and then broadcast courses that haven't been broadcast for CTE before are being broadcast. It's exciting.
And that's we have CTE courses that are able to be broadcast and not concurrent enrollment, and then some that are.
Yeah.
So our teachers are being flexible and being creative in offering these to more locations.
It is hard to teach a distance class, and so we appreciate their work to do that. It has a load.
And the highlight from one of our programs is the teaching as profession, and we doubled our enrollment this last year with broadcasts into other locations. So
Yeah.
it is growing. It's just slow.
Baby steps. And the last one, just increased student Perkins concentrator performance. So these were the 9 indicators from Perkins, and we had increased scores in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 9 areas. So we're really excited about those increases in proficiency. Those numbers come from, so science, we have indicators for science, language, arts, and math. Science was the only one that we increased on. We're still meeting all our state goals on the other 2, but it comes from 10th, any student who's a concentrator, they pull their 10th grade proficiency scores. So that's where they get that data from. But we're really proud of our teachers for implementing science and language, arts, and math into their daily curriculum to help strengthen those areas in our students. Our challenges, work-based learning opportunities. The biggest challenge with that is just time and personnel to get it all done. Like, we would love to go sit down and have a meeting with every single business and industry in this county, but it's hard. I mean, we all have limited time and resources, so we do the very best we can. And then our teacher capacity and workload, it's hard. Our teachers work so hard.
A lot of them have multiple, I say multiple preps, but I'd say almost all their classes are all different every class hour.
They have a lot of preps. It's a lot of work, but they do it because they understand the value of these pathways for our students. So they do what it takes to make sure that they offer the courses it takes for our students to be a concentrator and completer. So we really appreciate their willingness to work hard for our students. And they do. They work really hard. And then we just had some pictures at the end because we love our CTE students and all that they do. Do you have any questions for us?
Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one question. How long are you able to track your students?
Once they leave us,
Yeah,
we are required to track them for 1 year, and I think tracking is probably a really loose term for that. We're asked to try to contact them 1 year after they graduate, but that's all we're required to do, and it's very difficult to find them that 1 year after they graduate to hunt them down. We have had a lot of discussions at the state level with higher ed in finding ways to transfer data to be able to track by student identifying information, to be able to at least track the post-secondary enrollment. So we can say, here's the student's information or ID number and where are they at in the post-secondary world. But really tracking employment, it gets hard. Our students go far.
It is a
Yeah.
Right.
challenge to
right.
So far, just 1 year is all we're able to do.
And one more thing. The last time you were here with the students, the day or a week later, I think, you shot us an email about a student that experienced coming to the board meeting and how appreciative they were. I like that. Tell them thank you.
He's one of our officers that.
He's now a state officer for Skills
That
USA.
Wow.
same student
So-
who as a freshman, I mean, he lives in my neighborhood and I maybe heard him say 2 words his whole life. He's pretty shy, but this has really brought him out of his shell and helped him realize some of his potential. Thank you.
That's neat. Thank you.
That's your question.
Yeah, I just had my own meeting with my son, and he wants to be an elementary teacher. So we didn't know where to go post-secondary, other than, of course, enrolling in college and everything. So it's good to hear that CTE would be something to push him towards, because...
Yeah, they can start taking introductory, I can talk today, introductory courses in high school, and then there is a concurrent enrollment class through USU that they can start that post-secondary pathway.
And I know he's not the only one that has asked. I know I've had a few conversations with a few parents that were asking the same thing as well, so...
So our teaching as a profession pathway, it's one of the broadcast
Okay.
pathways. And so they would just need to reach out to their counselor, let them know that they're interested in those courses. And then once again, from there, they can take those concurrent enrollment
Okay.
and kind of get that leg up in high school for the teaching.
Okay, great, thank you.
So, we used to didn't hear that much about CT. I mean, we did here and there, but we can tell there's a fire because we see a lot in the newsletters and we hear a lot. So good job. Great. You guys are doing awesome.
It's a big field. It would be really
Sure.
hard to name a career that CTE doesn't encompass
Right.
somewhere.
So we appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Oh, Jim, come.
I have a question. So how did the parents know about this before their student starts into high school, into the first year that they can participate?
That's a really good question. A lot of it actually starts with CCA. The CCA standards have been revised to address all of our career clusters.
Can you tell us what, okay,
Sorry,
CCA?
college and career awareness courses in middle school.
Oh, okay,
All seventh
okay.
graders are required to take that course, so it's in every middle school, high school in our district. So all seventh graders get that experience as far as into the career clusters, but also the CTSOs, what's available.
Yeah, so the students are introduced to it at the middle school level, and so are the parents. We are usually, well, so far every year we have been invited to back to school nights at the middle school level, and we've been able to present to parents there and give them kind of an overview of what's available at the middle school level, but then how it branches out into the high school level. A big piece of that, though, is when we were talking about our CTE nights, like really just getting parents aware of CTE overall, just in communities, really making sure that our community, all of our stakeholders are aware of what CTE can offer. But the middle school level, it really starts with CCA and those back to school nights with parents.
Okay, so the parents have I mean, if their student wants to do it and is excited about it, but if they're not hearing it from their student and they miss that parent night, are there other opportunities besides the radio ads that are awesome, because I hear those and during ball games and those kinds of things, and I think that's wonderful because they need lots of opportunities to hear about it so that they might hear about, some people might hear about it lots of times and one
Right.
maybe never and one maybe once. So are there, besides the ads and then that one night,
Well,
for
one thing
parents?
we're working on to start, and I mean, it's really kind of an exciting thing, but it's the CTSOs in the middle schools. So to have our students be able to participate in FFA or FBLA in middle school, and so the excitement starts earlier before high school. So we have a lot of advisors that are starting that, and our county is kind of leading the charges as far as the state goes. We're the only area that has a middle school FFA chapter.
And
so
they're beating the high schools, and it's making some high schools really angry, just so you know.
there has been a little discussion about that, and it's exciting because I have an elementary school student that's hearing about those classes in elementary school. And so I think that what's happening with the teachers at the middle school level is kind of creating something that's exciting, and those CTSOs can be really powerful to create that.
I think also, so we, for the first time, learned how to do mass mailings. We taught ourselves about this winter, and we sent out a mailing to every postal customer in San Juan County about our CTE student and our stakeholder surveys. And so we would actually really like to start using and implementing something along that lines where we're sending out either some kind of newsletter
information
to every postal customer, just so they see what we're doing. There's a lot of fine lines to walk there and make sure that we're not, sharing a picture of a student that may have asked it to be opted out of a media release. So there are some fine lines that we're going to have to learn to walk, and it's going to be a real learning curve for us, but that is something that we want to start engaging in, because it's its own little bubble, but it can have such a big impact, and we do want all parents, but not just parents, we want all our stakeholders to know about it.
Yeah, so it's great, and it is just, snowballing because of the work that you're doing, and I think it's such a huge benefit to students and helps them really connect education, what they've been sitting in school doing becomes real once they get into the CTE courses.
And we see time and time again the relevancy of these courses and students who are, that's why they come to school. But that's why they realize, that's why I need to learn to do math. Like, I can't figure out the angle for this well if I don't know how to do this in my math class. And so really it is connecting the relevancy of what they're learning to the real world experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I had a question.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
It just popped up. But I had a question as to whether maybe exploring like a student mentorship. You said FBLA was a challenge, being the middle school challenging the high schoolers. I mean, that would be one thing, because I know Bluff comes to ARL or goes to Whitehorse. I mean, maybe we have a student from the high school or the middle school do a presentation at the elementary too, to gain more interest.
Yeah, so that's actually, I'm really glad you brought that up. We talked about that in our last meeting with our teachers. We have 2 schools that are doing really great examples of taking either their class to the middle school to present to their CCA class, like the health science class goes and presents at the CCA classes in the middle school when they're talking about the health career cluster, Or we have a couple of CTSOs that are really great to go present, take their CTSO officers and go present at the middle school level. We actually just started some conversations at ARL about having a CTSO at the high school level meet almost monthly with their CTSO members and have kind of a mentoring program. But that is actually something that our teachers talked about a lot, and how could they get more into not the middle school level, but the elementary school level as well.
Okay.
So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. All right, Laura, you ready? We've got some policies we've got to review.
I think it's fair I have to come after the exciting report. Nothing I ever talk about is exciting. All right. So the first policy we have for you today is our home instruction programs. So you can see we have redlined the entire first section, which was about homebound instruction, which was requiring us to send a teacher to a student's home if they were homebound. That's not something we are doing or able to do, so we'd like to remove that. And then below that in the homeschool instruction, we have just added some clarification for not only us, but for parents that are interested in homeschool of what that entails, that they do need to come and file that affidavit with the school district for the Board of Education to excuse their child from attendance. And that by doing that, they are acknowledging that they are accepting the sole responsibility of the education of their student. And also putting in there as well that if they have been convicted of child abuse, that they cannot file the affidavit to be a homeschool parent. That only means one parent. So a second parent that hasn't been accused of that could take over ownership of the child homeschooling, but anyone with that charge cannot. So that's all that is just clarifying that, not only for us, but for parents that are interested in homeschooling of what that would look like as far as needing to come to the district, and then removing the homebound instruction.
This came because of USPE, right? You might
The
want to
notary.
clarify that.
Yes, so this is changes in the guidelines. Notary was one part of that was removed this year in legislation.
And that was, our policy wasn't up to date with that requirement anyway, and we had started looking at this policy to get it up to date, and then the legislative session removed that anyway. So in the middle of us reviewing this policy, there was changes made. So we did have the notarized piece in there for our, when we brought this to our first policy committee, and then when we brought it back last week, we had to take it out. It already changed. So this right now is in compliance with what the state code and rule is.
Okay. Questions? Okay.
You see, and the next policy is our extracurricular program. So this is our coaching policy. In the definitions, we just cleaned it up and used the language that we need to be using now for the State Board of Education and updating the names of the licenses. In the bulk of the policy, the big pieces I want to bring attention to is number 4. We did have in the past that classified employees could coach with approval from the superintendent, and we have removed that and not allowed them to coach at all. It becomes a very big issue with fair labor standards when you have non-exempt classified employees coaching. You run into issues with they should be earning overtime, and we should be calculating their hours coaching, and that the stipend paid should be at least minimum wage when you calculate all the hours they have worked. So that's been kind of a risk that we've taken on that I am asking we remove. And this is not uncommon. It's when you look at fair labor standards, things against school districts, charges against school districts, almost every one of them are going to involve a classified employee in a coaching stipend paid position. And districts across Utah are removing this as well. And then the other piece to bring attention to is number 6. So last school year, about this time, the board approved an exception to this policy by allowing an administrative employee to coach. And we are just wanting to update our policy in line with what we are currently doing now, that we would allow them at their assigned school with approval from the superintendent. So those are the big changes to this policy.
Any questions on this one?
Is that common for administrative employees to ask? I mean, is it
I
a
think
lot?
when we looked into this last year when this came up, that there are some school districts where this is happening. And I think that when we had those employees come, they brought that data with them last time about this is happening in other smaller school districts, that we're allowing the admin to coach.
But of course, on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's no guarantee to continue. Like, they don't have any career ownership rights to that, so if it didn't work out, they wouldn't be guaranteed to continue doing that coaching position either.
Okay.
Which is the case for all of our coaching positions.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think there's any more.
No.
Oh, okay. Evaluation committee.
Okay, evaluation, sorry, I couldn't tell if there was a
Sorry.
question. All right, so we are required to align our teacher evaluation systems with the new Utah Effective Teaching Standards. So we are asking the board to approve a joint evaluation committee, and as part of our policy, it is made up of 3 teachers, one of whom is recommended by the San Juan Education Association, 3 administrators, and one of those is the HR administrator, and then 3 parents. So the Joint Evaluation Committee will work to either adopt the Utah State Board's model or part of their model, or to design our own system and tools aligning with the state code and rules. So we are asking the list of nominees be approved so that the district administrators can go choose those 3. So none of these people have been asked, they've just been nominated by the schools. So we would like options in case parents or teachers are not interested. Our idea would be to ideally have a river region representative in each of the categories, a parent, a teacher, and an administrator.
Does anyone have any questions on that list, or?
And we did have the list uploaded, and then I did get a late nomination today. I did put in the notes as well.
Yeah. Okay.
No question.
No question. Okay, you can go to, or did you have?
No, I'm good.
Let's go to number 11, our negotiations.
All right, negotiations. So we met with the San Juan Education Association last week and went over this license negotiation agreement. So it would increase our salary level with our steps and lanes, increase $504 to the educator salary adjustment to each step of the license salary schedule for all of our qualifying licensed employees, and a salary schedule base increase of 3.7%. And I wanted to address that 0.7 because it does seem a little different. This was purposefully done. There was a change this year with the Tier 2 URS employees. So anyone hired after July of 2011 is in Tier 2, and they had an option of choosing a hybrid, which is your pension and 401k, or the defined contribution, which is a 401k only. And it's always been the case that if the cost of the pension ever exceeded the district's or the employer's responsibility, that the employee would have to pick up that pension piece. But this is the first year since 2011 that has actually happened, that the cost of the pension has gone above what the contribution rate is. So employees in the Tier 2 hybrid will be impacted and have to contribute 0.7% of their salary to their pension. So I just ran some numbers to let you know kind of what that looks like and who that's impacting. So we have 355 retirement eligible employees, and 147 of them are Tier 2 hybrid. So it's going to impact a good portion of our employees. And we recognize that this isn't something the district may always be able to pick up or contribute to, but it did come as kind of a shock to most that they are now contributing to their pension. And so trying to offset that a little bit it was the goal with that 0.7. And then of course we'll maintain our URS contributions, and then the district will maintain the current insurance premiums and plans, and there were not any increases to our health insurance this year, so the district's portion and the employee's portion will stay the same as the current year. And our standard number of contract days will remain at 183 days. And then we've also agreed to continue a joint committee to review the district's leave policies for personal and sick.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Nelson.
Yeah, question. So the compensation package, that includes the federal impact aids, has that been ongoing?
That's always been included as part of our negotiation agreement. I think maybe Tyrell will speak a little bit more to that, and I know it's included with your budget proposal as well.
Yeah, so that, are you referring specifically to like line 9 of number 6, Nelson?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that has been included in that negotiation agreement for many, many years because we have always budgeted the $4 million from impact aid and put in the general fund. So those dollars have been a key contributor into how we budget and are able to fund all of our operations in the school district. So we've always had that line in there in the sense that if impact aid went away, our district would be hurting.
Right, and I didn't know that because what we've been told years and years is tax monies, property taxes, and impact aid monies go into one pot and get stirred up and divvied out. But nothing specifically like this has been explained. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Specifics of it.
So it does. It's that same way, right? And it's the same if we were to decrease property taxes. When we look at our budget, we'll mention that the budget is built with the certified tax rate holding our property tax rate and revenues neutral. And so all of those dollars do go into the same pool and it funds the district as a whole. And then because this is a federally
Right.
run program and it's funded annually, we include that in there because at any point the federal government, if they decided not to continue the impact aid program, would have a significant impact on San Juan School District.
Very interesting. Again, I have to bring the bi-monthly or the two months payroll. When these full-time teachers are already getting this advantage, these other folks are receiving federal impact as well,
Point
too.
of order.
What is your point?
That we're talking about the negotiated agreement and not how many times they'll get paid.
I'm just referencing to what I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Can we get clarification on that, on the budget, when we bring up the budget?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, anything else?
You guys let me off easy. I'm going to sit down before you change your mind.
Yeah, don't go too far. Okay, we're going to jump into our budget.
Okay, so this is, every year we go over the preliminary fiscal year budget, preparing for our budget review hearing in June. So Tyrell, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. I'll walk you through just a few pages and point out some highlights and some clarifications, especially after what Laura just went over. So page 5 is just that first letter that just kind of gives a brief introduction to the budget book, and you all have a copy of that. And apologies, like they are one. We didn't do them. They didn't print them double-sided this time, so they're a little thicker than you would normally see. And anyways, please bear with us as you flip through those pages there. You have as kind of the highlights there on that first page 5 letter, as Laura just pointed out on the license negotiated agreement, that this budget that we've prepared and put together does include everything that she just went over with that negotiated agreement. I'll just kind of direct your attention to pages 8 and 9 to start out, which is just a breakdown of San Juan School District student demographics and our enrollment counts. And you can kind of see from previous years on page 9 there that we are decreasing in student count from the past. We kind of peaked in 2021 with 2935, and each year we've gone down a little bit, and that trend continues this year where we're seeing declining enrollment, which does have a direct impact on funding, as a lot of the funding formulas that we receive through state aid and everything else is directly related to student counts. So just something to point out. It's nothing dramatic, nothing crazy, but we are seeing, slight dips. And we've seen that if you look at our trend and many years of history, we've seen ups and downs where we go up and down. It's not like we're in the worst shape ever, but we are seeing some declining enrollment there on page 9. The following pages, following page 9 are just a breakdown of each individual school's demographics, so we can just kind of breeze through some of that. And then I'll take you to page, let's jump to page 28 is where, or 26, I'm sorry, is where school allocations start. So you have these school allocated budgets that we provide from page 26 clear to page 38. And those formulas have not been changed from last year. Last year, if you remember, we did provide an additional increase to activity allocation for the schools to use. So that's included again. But other than that, those formulas have remained the same and will continue to be that. Most of them are based off of your student count with a base allocation. So some of those budgets, because our student counts are down, you'll see like there's a prior year comparison, and most of the schools, a lot of our schools are seeing a slight reduction in some of those budgets, nothing that's dramatic again, but because student counts are down, it has an impact as we fund those individual budgets based on student counts at the school level as well. So just to point that out there.
Tyrell, is that 26 through what page again?
26 through 38
Okay.
are those school allocation, each individual one that are there. And then if you'll turn with me to page 44, this starts several pages of San Juan School District's just a comparison where we're at with different property values and where we sit with property tax information. So page 44 is assessed valuation per student. 45 is your property tax rates by district. This is obviously looking at tax year 23. When we have our June board meeting, we'll adopt the tax rate for the following year. And so you can see on there that we have historically and continue to be historically, we are one of the lowest when it comes to assessed valuation per student and total property tax collected per student, yet we remain in the higher end of what our property tax rate is across the state. We're in the top 10 of what our property tax rate is. 47 does have updated assessed values by property type. Just for your information, 48 is a continuation of that for property values. 49 and 50 are not updated. We'll still wait for property tax data and information to come in from the county, and when we receive that information, I'll update the board as soon as we get it. If it's anything like the last couple of years that I've experienced, we likely will not get that information until mid to late June, right before we meet. So that's one of the reasons why we do meet later in June. And then page 51 and 52 are just estimates of local property tax revenue. So that is a direct impact on revenues that we have. And it is maintaining, as we've budgeted revenue, we're just maintaining the certified rate so that we would just hold our local property tax revenue neutral. So it's not increasing property tax, it would just be adopting the certified rate on those rates there.
Can I clarify that when the certified rate is approved, that it can mean a property tax increase? It doesn't?
Yes, the certified rate just holds your revenue neutral as a school board. So it just holds the revenue neutral. If property tax values if property values decline, and the rate would then go up in order to hold those revenues neutral. Whereas the opposite is true, as property values increase, the rate would then drop to hold those revenues neutral. So you're correct. Anything else there? Anything else on those pages with property tax? And then if we jump to page 55, is where we get into the general fund summary. So again, this is going to be your actual for 2023, original and a revised budget, and then the proposed for FY 2025. There's just a couple of things that I wanted to point out to the school board to bring to your attention, because if you look, just at that summary page, and especially as you look at the revenue statement, right there in the middle of the page, and you look at total revenue, you see a pretty significant decline in the general fund. That's in large part because we are no longer going to be receiving ESSER funds, COVID relief dollars, that we've been utilizing in the district for the past several years. So that's millions of dollars every year that are no longer going to be received and expended within our district. So there's going to be challenges with that, but that's why you see, that significant decline in revenue on that page is in large part because of those programs and relief aid dollars that are going away. I'll turn your attention to 56 and 57, which is just kind of a breakdown of that. You can then see on 56, really you have your scheduled state revenue, which is also, we're seeing a decline in state funds overall, and that's in large part because of some programs, and as Assistant Superintendent Julie Holt mentioned last month in her presentation, there are some programs that the state legislature just decided to eliminate, and so there's funding specifically, like if you look at our early literacy funding, dollars that are no longer going to be received that have been state funds that we don't have, and we are not seeing significant increases in some other state programs, specifically like at risk, that they've identified as programs that those dollars could then be rolled up into. We don't see that increase, and so you see some of that in the schedule of state funds, that we're seeing some decrease there from there's a lot of different factors that go into that, but one of those is that there's just been some eliminating of programs at the state level, and we're seeing some changes. I mean, specifically like our NEST formula, which our district relies on heavily, we saw a decrease in funding this year instead of an increase. So just different factors that play in there. And then on 57 is the federal revenue, and this is where I'll provide just a little bit of clarification to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. So you'll see it's the second line item, the impact aid program on page 57. Revised budget FY24, you'll see 4.3 million, and then you'll see in proposed for FY25 5.1. So this is an increase. We are budgeting an increase with this in order to make our budget work for the next fiscal year, to budget additional dollars of impact aid into the general fund to cover those increases. And that's due to, in large part, not seeing the kind of increases that we'd like to see in the state revenue, and this is not, we're not proposing any kind of increase to property tax or anything like that to fund the increase. It's just a shift of impact aid dollars into the general fund. So instead of 4 million, it would be 4.85 million from impact aid dollars to go into the general fund. And with that said, I'm gonna skip ahead to the summary for capital outlay, which is page 64 and 65. You'll find there your fund summary and your revenues and expenditures. There's a couple of reasons why we feel this is a good time to make this change. I'm going to point specifically to page 65. If you'll look at the state revenue in the middle there again, you'll see the capital outlays programs. This is a state program, and if you remember a couple of years ago, we did increase our capital levy to max it out, and because that's in large part because this capital outlay program that is state matching funds is tied directly to that capital local levy. And so there's state matching dollars through this program that as we levy a certain amount, we get additional funds, and this is a state program that we've received. It's usually between $700,000 and $800,000 at the state matching funds that have come in. You'll notice for fiscal year 25, it's not $710,000 that we're looking at from our fiscal year 23, but almost $3 million. That came about because of a change in the formula for how this program is distributed to LEAs across the state. They eliminated online students, and so there were several LEAs that were benefiting from this program that had large student counts of online students, so they sponsored an online high school, and they were benefiting from those enrollment counts, because the formula involves enrollment ADM as well as your local property tax levy. And so when they eliminated those students, there were districts that had been sponsoring these online high schools that were benefiting, and those monies just got redistributed to other LEAs. And so we are a beneficiary of that, which is nice to be a beneficiary, because it feels like some of the formula changes that we've seen over the last several years have been a negative impact on San Juan. But in this case, we actually see an increase, a very significant increase in our state capital dollars. And so if you just consider, what we have done historically as far as revenues go and what we've been able to put away in the capital fund for future facility needs, with the $2 million that we've budgeted out of impact aid, with what we've received through this capital outlay foundation program that's state funding, and what we've been able to put away from local property tax revenue, we're actually seeing a net increase in what we have been doing historically, even with moving $850,000 out of impact aid money and putting it in the general fund. With the increase in the state program, it's just now we're seeing more state revenue. And the other part of this is we've always only budgeted $6 million of the impact aid dollars. As you look at the past 7 years, we're averaging well over $7 million in what our actual revenues have been. And so that all of that excess has been going into building reserve, which has been critical in helping us fund the projects that we've been able to do, and that's a never-ending list of projects. But this is a shift that we would now be budgeting $6.85 million of capital, and we could change this and be a little more conservative, and we could say we're going to do the 4.85 in the general fund and only the 1.15 in the capital, because right now if you look down in the federal revenue impact aid, you'll still see $2 million there, right? And then everything else that we've received after the 6 we put into the building reserve, which is at the back of your budget book. And you could change that to be more conservative and say we're still only going to budget the 6. However, history has shown, and as we've seen with the impact aid program, we are still receiving, in excess, the last 3 years have been in excess of $8 million. And so this is just shifting some of where those revenues are. But at the end of the day, you're still, with your capital outlay or your capital fund, you're still seeing a net increase in revenues of what we would normally do on an average year put into that. You also see, with FY23 and FY24, with those revenues that are clearly highly inflated because of the $20 million that we received for the Blanding Elementary School project, right, is why those revenues are so high. So that's kind of just I hope I didn't butcher that explanation. And if there's questions, I'm happy to try to explain a little further. But that's how we will be funding this increase, is by shifting some of those revenues around, and it still provides, I feel that it does still provide those ongoing needs that are never going to be ending with facility needs. And if you look, I'll point out before I just turn it over to you for questions, as you look at capital outlay and as we look at expenditures, we are budgeting in there in the capital program $33.5 million for Blanding Elementary. And then you'll also see down on the other board projects, there's $5 million. That's for our entryway remodels to do the safe entryways. So those are included in here. You'll see Blanding Elementary's budget has revised for FY24 $4 million. So with the $4 million there, the 33.5 proposed for next year, and then if you go to the back of your book in building reserve, you'll also see another $14 million that's been budgeted out of that. So we've budgeted the full project. It obviously won't all be spent in this upcoming fiscal year, as that's a multi-year project. But even with having budgeted all of your building reserve and your capital, we're still left with a fund balance of, after budgeting all of those, in excess of $15 million in capital, which puts the board in a really good place to still continue to fund and support other projects as they come up. And, some of these are helped, we are seeing really good returns in the PTIF. So we are putting large amounts of money away, that from fund balance for interest revenue that's been generated, and that's been helpful in completing some of those projects, and you can see that in the revenue there. But that's just kind of a summary of where we're at, and I just, would be remiss to not just point out that we have an awesome business office staff. Very grateful for all of their help in helping us get this budget book put together. They do a great job, and they're a huge support for our school district, and so just want to, give gratitude and thanks to them as well. But any questions about this as we move forward? And obviously, this is the preliminary, and there will likely be some changes as we move into June, and we'll notify you all of those changes as we get some more data and as we continue to go through this with a fine-tooth comb and prepare for our budget hearing in June.
Any questions?
Not yet.
All right.
I was going to say thank you, Tyrell. That was a good overview and explanation. Appreciated that.
And I'll just add one thing real quick to end. You have these budget books. If you're reviewing them and you have questions, or if you notice that we've made mistakes, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And if you want to stop by the business office and visit, we're more than willing to review anything if there's questions or concerns, and do that prior to our June meeting. So, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, let's just finish up our last three and we'll take a break, so.
Okay, and I just want to add just gratitude as well for the business office and for Tyrell Pemberton and all the work. This is a very time-consuming process and very detailed, so appreciate their work. So stakeholder surveys, just a quick update for you. These were administered open between January 29th to February 9th. And really the purpose of the survey is to gather input from students, staff, and parents and guardians. And it is part of our evaluation system. So this is just one data point when we look at stakeholder input as we evaluate our certified employees. And you have attached under executive or further down, but you have attached the administrator survey information. I do think, considering how many administrators that we have that were new this year to their school and the timeline of when this was taken, keep that in the back of your mind. I mean, not only thinking new administrators that we hired into administrative position, but many of our administrators moved from one school to another, so they'd only been in that building for a semester about when these surveys were taken. So I think that's always something to consider in the back of your mind, thinking about those changes. And then I think something else just to make you aware of is we've talked about the evaluation committee. One of the parts of the evaluation committee will be to review these questions in our stakeholder survey and bring any recommendations for making any changes to the stakeholder survey from that committee, that joint committee. And if you would like further information, we can go into closed and discuss anything that's in that data that you have. Or if you want anything specific, any other survey data, you can reach out to myself or to Laura Palmer. Okay. All right.
Questions? Okay, so the stakeholder surveys, those were, so every teacher had a survey for them, and we don't have any of that information. I've seen that in the past, so I wondered where that was.
In the past, I looked to see what was provided to the board in the past, and it was the administrative data. If you would like any specific teacher data, you again can reach out to Laura or myself, and we can provide that for you.
Okay, and then with this I also was under the impression there would be district office administrators as well?
We also have that data as well, so if you'd like to do that, we can share that with you as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
just included what typically has been, historically what's been provided to the board in the past. I just put that data on there to keep it consistent. So if the board as a whole wants me to do that different next year, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Highly effective teachers in high poverty schools. So I think this is, it seems a little late, but that's because we have to wait for USBE, and they were a little late in approving the funding for this and approving this for us. But it's really exciting that how many teachers we have. So just a reminder that this is based upon a median growth percentile rate for teachers that provide a standards-based assessment. So that's end-of-year state assessment. So they have to have a 70% or higher MGP. And they've also included K through 3 teachers with their Acadience data in math or literacy, and that they have to have 85% of all of their students being typical or higher. So it's really exciting that we have 18 teachers that have qualified for this. 4 of those teachers qualified through the RISE assessment, 7 teachers through Acadience math, and 5 teachers through Acadience literacy. And 2 of those teachers, were both Acadience literacy and Acadience math. So this is really exciting data to see this many teachers that will be receiving this award. So really, the question is to the board, how you would like this to occur. My recommendation would be to bring the giant check and visit those classrooms individually. But, this is, if you'd rather have it in a faculty meeting or something like that, we can do that. But that would be my recommendation at this time. So I'd love to hear any feedback on how you would like that to see that presented.
So that's how we've kind of done it in the past. So, and then you just kind of joined in your area with your schools. So if you want something different, then you can speak out about that.
It seems like last year each school was asked how they wanted that to happen. And I'm not sure if they just asked the principals or asked, do you remember that? Does this sound familiar to anybody? And because I want to say that Blanding Elementary said they didn't want it, interrupting their classes. Is that not right? Yeah. And so up until last year, they were surprised in each of their schools, which is really fun, and I've been part of that. But yeah, last year they were asked how they would like that to be awarded to the schools, and Blanding Elementary did say. So, and I don't remember the others because I didn't go to the others.
And maybe that happened after board meeting. When I listened to board meeting minutes from last year, it was the individual checks. But if you want me to check with each principal, that's your guidance, I'm happy to do that as well.
Well, as far as we know, they don't know who's going to get rewarded, right?
The principal doesn't know at this time, but I could easily reach out to him and say, you have these teachers. Would you like it to be in a faculty meeting? Would you like it individual? So that I am happy to do that. I mean, that's an easy step if that's what you'd like me to do.
I guess my comment would be, I'd like for us to be surprising them because, they get this award with their students because of their students. So, and to celebrate them as such within that environment, that would be great.
Yeah, that could be the difference is, whether the students are involved or it's the faculty.
Oh, yeah.
And another note that the award is based off students from 2 years ago. Is that correct?
It's not their same group that they're teaching right then.
It's
no.
not even last year's, it's the year prior to that. But those kids still know they have an awesome teacher, anyway. So I don't really care. I just know that was their preference. They were given a preference last year, and they didn't all choose the same thing.
I don't care. It doesn't matter. What
I don't have a preference either.
you want to reach out?
Yeah.
Either way, what do you think?
No opinion.
Okay, then
You can just let us know.
What do you think, Nelson?
It's not coming from the board. I don't care.
Okay.
So I guess, follow the same practice. If someone doesn't want that, then accommodate
Perfect.
accordingly, so.
And then I'll just text the board if you want to attend that when we get that set up. and
Whatever
just let
times
you
you
know
have.
the day before when we're going and
Okay.
join us if you can. That would be great. It's a really fun part of our jobs, right? All right, moving on to, I think that's it. I think it's
Yeah.
Mary.
Okay, Mary,
Oh.
delegate assembly selection. I thought we did that.
We discussed it, but
Oh.
no decision was made. So that delegate assembly is June, well, it's not in front of me, June what, 8th?
I thought you and Nan were
Yes,
going.
June.
7th and
Is that not
June 8th.
correct?
No, that's not correct. We just said we'd bring it back this month, and so, I guess one of us will go, and we can, if nobody else. So, the Friday evening, any board member can attend the Friday evening presentation, discussion. It changes from time to time what's presented that night. So anybody's invited to that. And then our board just needs to have somebody there to vote at the delegate assembly on Saturday. And so, if you want me to work with Nan and figure out who's going, I can do it. I can do that.
Yeah, will you talk to her?
Okay.
For some reason, I thought she had committed, because I know I have a prior commitment, cannot be there.
And I think Nan had committed, and then if she couldn't or she wasn't able to, then I volunteered as well.
Okay, so you're interested in going too? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
You-
Okay.
You know, we're in the age of technology. It'd be nice if they could do a Zoom for those of us that,
okay. So I think the Friday night meeting may be available Zoom. The Saturday, they have held, USBA has held strong in if it's going to be a vote with the delegates, that the delegate has to attend in person for that particular meeting on Saturday morning.
well, not just particularly for the individuals that have to vote, but I would like to watch, see what's going on.
And I think that one may be Zoomed as well, but somebody who votes can't Zoom it. So I'll just work with you, Superintendent, and make sure we have somebody
That sounds
going.
great. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Thanks. All right, we're going to adjourn until 6 o'clock. Thank you. Is this on the agenda?
Oh, this is.
On their progress for. Are these my only two? Got a copy for you, is that okay?
Can see. Eva? Real quick, and then we'll start. Okay, got it. Thanks. Okay, you ready? Okay. Welcome back to our board meeting. We are going to jump into our, gotta find where I'm at.
Citizens comment.
Well, actually, we're going to do our awards first. Okay. We're going to do our recognition awards, which we really like to do first. So we have two tonight. We have Mitzi Nilsson and Alfred Billy. And Alfred is not with us, correct? He is actually working, so he will not be with us. So Mitzi, if you'd like to come forward, and we have you come to the center. You're going to be the center of attention. Turn around, face the front, and we will
Oh, that's right.
do this for you.
Fun times.
And we're glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to move the podium? Are you good?
I can see from here. So I'm good.
Mitzi was nominated by Unknown, and here's what Unknown says. Mitzi is an incredible asset for our school. She always has a smile for everyone, and she makes the library a fun place for students to learn. She is also always willing to fill in anywhere she is needed. We love having her at our school. Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know if that's all.
Sure.
For my news, I have the
Oh, better turn it around there.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I'll just flip the picture backwards and then we have it play.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say what was said about Mitzi is the Mitzi I know. She'll just do anything and be happy about it, and she always chips in. Okay, this one is for Alfred Billy, who is not here because he is driving a school bus right now. So that's why he couldn't be here. He's very dedicated. So he was nominated by the San Juan High School softball team. Alfred is the best, as in capital, best bus driver. He always, and that's capitalized too, on time to pick us up. He always has the luggage doors open ready for our gear. His driving is smooth, safe, and professional. When you have a bus full of girls and they ask to have the heat turned on, he never questions it, and he turns it on immediately and keeps it on until they ask for it to be turned off, even though he is probably melting away. Once we get to our hotel, he treats us like queens and drops us off at the main lobby doors every single time, and is there to pick us up in the morning again at the front doors, ready to take us to the fields. Alfred drops us off as close to the fields as he can, jumps out and helps us get our gear off, then goes and parks where he is supposed to. After our games, we never have to look for the bus because he makes sure he is there front and center to pick us up. There is never a hesitation when we ask him to take us somewhere to eat. We pull up the address and he takes us there, no problem. We as a team have really enjoyed getting to know Alfred. And secretly, we cross our fingers that he will drive our bus every time we have an away game. Thanks, Alfred, for being so great and making these bus trips for our girls memorable and fun. If you haven't had the opportunity to get to know Alfred, you should. So, it makes me think of the times that kids must have to get their own luggage out of the bus and walk to the bus, because he's right there, so that's awesome.
With the softball team right now. They're
Yeah.
He's with the softball team right now.
Oh, yeah, he's driving the bus and yeah.
Yes, and we have so many great employees within our districts, and so thank you for what you do. We're now going to have our citizens comment. If there's anyone in the room that chooses to make a comment, just make sure you fill a form out prior and you can hand it to Eva. So I'm going to just read a little bit of what our process is and procedure. So the purpose of the San Juan School District Board of Education meeting is for the is for the board to conduct its business in public as provided by law. The San Juan School District Board of Education values and welcomes public comments, so time is allotted in our public meetings for such. However, to maximize its benefit, there must be structure and consistency to this practice. With that in mind, please know that public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective criticism of school operations and programs, but complaints about school personnel or other persons will not be allowed. Individuals expressing comments should not expect an immediate response from the board. Please understand that the public comment period is not a debate, an interactive question and answer session, or a dispute resolution forum, but it is an opportunity for you to express your comments, suggestions, and concerns to the board for our information and consideration. A member of the district staff will respond to patrons who request a follow-up meeting or information. So, Colby, we will start with you. If you'll come up to the front and please use the microphone so we can hear, and there will be a timer set, and you will know when it goes off. It's loud.
Great, thank you. My name is Colby Davis. I'm coming to the board because I have a number of people asking me lots of questions, and they have for some time with the new school, the process happening with the new school. The reason they come to me is because of my experience in the school district with that process. So some of the questions relate to the new GMP that was provided to the public to review. Questions that I have, and I think they'll obviously have to be answered after this through whatever sources they go. But questions such as, this isn't a complete cost to the public, so the public will want to know what the complete project cost is. And so that's one of the questions. Other questions will be, who's involved in the district in evaluating bids, evaluating the process, Others will be what staff are involved. So to answer those questions, I tell people I can't answer those questions very well unless I understand how the agreements between the parties were made. And so I will be wanting to ask for information regarding contracts, RFPs, and things like that to better understand the process so that I can communicate to these people, this is why this process happened this way, or vice versa, whatever it is. So I just wanted to present that information, and when I filled out the form, I left my contact information, so whoever that is that can reach out to me, I'll be able to see what they have to provide me, and then I can try to help some public members understand a few things. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming in. So that one is right. Okay, and Rich, you are welcome to come to the front, please.
I echo that with Alfred. He drove our bus for our field trip and was the bus everybody wanted to be on. So he does an awesome job. So for me, I'm coming tonight because this is my last time. I'm going to take a step back, like some of you guys are going to take a step back. And I don't know how many years I've been doing this. But I wanted to come tonight and express my appreciation to all of you guys for the work that you do, to express my appreciation for all the decisions that are made with everyone in the district involved. I appreciate last time you guys voting to put a survey together for this, for the pay period. I know that the data's been collected. I've been able to see the data. Whenever you do surveys, it's challenging to get everybody to respond to the surveys. We find that in a lot of the ones that we do. But the data that was collected shows that the majority of the teachers or the majority of people that filled out the survey want to stay with the way we have it. So my ask tonight is that you would consider keeping that the way we've done. As I said before last time, no need to fix it if it's not broken. I understand there's some concerns. I'm sure this will be a thing that comes back again at some point, and we'll have to analyze where we are then. But for now, this is kind of where the people that are working in the district feel. My next comment was to express my appreciation, years and years of the work that the people here at the district office, admin Christy and Tyrell and all those that I've worked with before, put into helping us put together contracts for the upcoming years, working to see that the teachers that are here are taken care of, and using whatever they can that is given to them, the tools I guess they have to recruit new teachers, because we know that we're a unique district. We know that it's challenging to get teachers, and we know that it's challenging for teachers to stay. And so that being said, as we look at this tonight, the proposal, in working with them, we appreciate the work that they do. We appreciate the offer that they've given us, and would hope that you would be able to approve that for the teachers and everyone here. It's not just the teachers, because when I come in this position, I get to negotiate and help negotiate for everybody. And so this is going to be passed to the bus drivers, to the cafeteria people, to everybody that works for the district. So we appreciate your thoughts on this, and would ask that we continue to move forward in our district. We appreciate the efforts and things that we've done in the past years, and the significant gains that we've got in the last few. So that being said, I appreciate getting to work with you guys. I appreciate all you do, and I wish you guys good luck, those of you that are going to be moving to different things in your lives too. So thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, no, is there any more comments? Okay. So we are complete with our citizens' comments, so we are going to continue with our agenda. We do have some closed session items, but we are going to move that down and take care of those very last. So you're welcome to stay as we continue through our agenda, or you are free to leave if you prefer. So, but thank you for coming. All right, let's move to the the consent agenda. So if I can get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that the consent agenda be approved.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed? All right, let's go to our possible action items. So our first one is our 2024 National Unity Conference. So if we can get a motion to approve that, which was presented to us earlier.
I move to approve the 2024 National Unity Conference for San Juan School District Youth Leadership Council and Unity Club members.
Okay, motion by Mary. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, does anyone have any comments or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think I heard it all. Okay. We have our 2023-24 volley. Is that right?
That was the second view.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's this school year.
Yes, the volleyball spend plan for Monument Valley High School. So if I can get a motion to approve that.
Motion to accept 2023-2024 volleyball spend plan for Monument Valley High School.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And then for the golf spend plan and girls' basketball spend plan for Whitehorse High School.
Motion for the 2024-25 golf spend plan and girls basketball spend plan at Whitehorse High School.
Okay, do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. A motion for payroll distribution, and so you, if we're going to keep it the same, there does not need to be a motion. If someone wants to change it, then there needs to be a motion. So the floor is open to make a motion regarding this action item.
I will make a motion to change the San Juan School District payroll distribution to twice a month.
Okay, I have a motion by Nelson. Do I have a second? Okay. Hearing there's nothing, that does not go forward. Okay. Westland General Contractors Guaranteed. It's a long, just the Westland General Contractors. Whoever wants to make the motion. Then I'll let you spell it all out.
They're just processing what we need to.
Okay, you're fine.
What needs to be done.
Tyrell, clarify, please, will you?
Yeah, so the recommended action, this is going back historically too to what the board has done in previous GMP options. So it's listed on there as the board authorize a guaranteed maximum price for the Blanding Elementary project and enter into a contract with Westland General Contractors for the work.
Okay.
Worded similarly to how we've approved those GMP amounts in previous
Okay.
projects.
Does that clarify that at all? Okay.
Did
Go
you have
ahead,
something
Mary.
else to say?
All I was going to say is this will just authorize us to enter into that contract
Okay.
with Westland to complete
Okay.
the work.
Okay, so do we, well, I guess I have to make a motion and then we
Yes.
discuss. Okay, I move to approve the Westland General Contractors Guaranteed Maximum Price Contract Authorization for Blanding Elementary with further discussion.
Well, say school, and then I'll open up for discussion. Yeah, so for Blanding
What?
Elementary, and then I will open up for discussion.
School.
Okay, so motion by Mary, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we are open for discussion if anyone wants to revisit this.
So just to include a review of the contract, well, I want to withdraw my motion. Can I do that? This is approving a contract, and so my question is, where's the contract? I mean, is it just these prices or the contract?
Yeah, this, I mean, obviously you don't have the contract in front of you. This would be for the price, the GMP amount, and then we would enter into I don't remember the number of it. If Clint's still here, there's an AIA contract that's standard in construction that we would enter into with the general contractor to complete the work. But this isn't the specific contract. It's the price.
Maximum price contract.
So it's to
So
approve
this
the
is
GMP.
considered a contract? The maximum price contract authorization. So this one sheet of paper is considered the maximum price contract? Is that right? That we approve this contract that we see? We're not talking about approving, authorizing going into a contract.
Yeah, there would be a follow-up, a further contract contract that we would go into, but it wouldn't exceed this GMP amount. So there is that AIA contract document that we would then, that I would sign on the board's behalf if approved by the board, that we would go in and enter into that contract with Westland as the general contractor for the project, not to exceed the GMP amount that would be approved tonight.
And will that contract come to the board before you sign it?
No, they wouldn't. No, we can play the back and forth. No, so this would be authorizing me to enter into that contract for the school board for us to complete the work. So we wouldn't bring it back in June and then sign it, because then they wouldn't be, as Mark mentioned earlier, like they're not going to issue their contracts as subcontractors without having a notice to proceed and entering into that contract with everyone else. So this would allow us to issue that notice to proceed with the GMP amount that's established here.
Okay. I want to amend my motion. Remind me how that works.
So we need to, okay, so amend your motion, Steve, I think you make a new motion. We have to vote on your new motion to go into that discussion. And when we come back, then we go back to this motion.
So my new motion is,
So your amended motion.
my amended motion is to, well, I have to think about this for a minute, because it looks like to me, if this is approved by our board today, then Tyrell signs a contract that we haven't seen the wording for with Westland, and everybody's possibly, the subs are then notified without any checks and balances or whatever by administration or school board on our end. And so I guess my amended motion, I don't know, I gotta think. My amended motion is to approve the Westland General Contractors Guaranteed Maximum Price Contract Authorization for Blanding Elementary. That also includes a review of the subcontractors' awards and the contract wording that San Juan School District will enter into.
Okay, so that's a motion by Mary. Does anyone second that? Okay, so your motion failed, so we will go back to our original motion and we'll just finish that discussion. So, so your motion is to approve this GMP basically, which then allows us to go through with the awarding. And I guess this is my question is, I mean, we've done a couple of schools. I just feel like this is so difficult in figuring this out. I don't feel like we had all these obstacles like this. We just allowed administration to handle those things. But maybe I'm wrong.
For historical information is our school district was involved in reviewing the subcontracts before they were awarded. There was participation by the school district. And as of yet, we haven't had any participation with looking at those. Is that right, Tyrell? You mentioned that you couldn't be to the meeting when they did that. You weren't available or something like that. So Tyrell hasn't done it, and nobody in our school district has done it. And in the past, historically, we've always been a partner in that with those who are working for the school district. And as board members who represent the public, we have a responsibility to review that, to answer questions. As you know, Colby came today, and I was unaware of many questions that are going to him. It's interesting to me that they're, maybe some of those people have also come to some board members and administration, but it's just answer our questions. We're board members who represent the community of Blanding, and all of us represent the community of Blanding once we're elected. So, you know, it's not a big deal. It's like, let's be transparent, let's get questions answered, and if that's a problem, that's a red flag.
Well, I don't have a problem with the questions. What I'm asking is certain things come to us that my question is if we don't approve the GMP tonight, or we keep going and then we approve that, but then we have this and this and this on hold, what does that do with our timeline, Tyrell? Where does that put us? I mean, if we wait till next month to see that contract, and we wait till, I mean, a little bit I feel like administration is hired to handle, I mean, I am not saying we should not see those details. I am saying, though, a lot of this should be handled by our administration. We should not have our hands in every single detail of this process, because that's why we've hired them to do all that legwork for us. And sometimes these things come to us. So Tyrell, do you want to ask us on our answer on our timeline?
Yeah, I mean, if we don't approve a GMP tonight and we push it off till June, then we're not starting any work until then. We're not moving forward until after that June board meeting at that point. As far as reviewing, you know, we'll review obviously the contract as administration prior to signing and compare to previous. They're generally standard construction contracts that you see with general contractors that get entered into as a school district, and it's going to be very similar. We can compare and review those contracts and make sure that they're in line with everything we've ever done in the past, and that they are standard construction contracts that you see anyone enter into in the public sector. So we'll review that as administration, absolutely. I don't know if that's a concern that we would just enter into it without a review. We would definitely be reviewing all of those documents prior to signing or anything at that point, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just speaking from my recollections with what we did in Bluff, that's my only experience on another elementary school since I've been on the board. Bluff was a little bit different, where we hired the general contractor based on a bid where that general contractor had already gone out and got subcontractor bids. Here it's a little bit different, where we hired a contractor, but we didn't have all the numbers in front of us at that time. With Bluff Elementary, I don't recall ever seeing a breakdown of subcontractors. We just hired the general contractor. But we did know, a total price of the building with the bid and the awarding of that contract to that general contractor. That's what I remember.
That's what I remember.
Yes, and to clarify, my motion, and I can't remember exactly what I said, but now I'll say what I meant to say if I didn't. I didn't say a board review or acceptance of the contract or the bids, just a review, and I'll say district, because I've mentioned already that in the past, the district was always part of that bid process. We had a partnership and took a part in that. This is the first time in building a school that we haven't had anybody, not an administrator and not a board member, nobody involved in that. And so I'm just suggesting, I put with that motion that we would review those before they're actually awarded to those people. And so that's all, just the oversight of the district being involved in that. I would say we are not doing our jobs as board members for the people of San Juan County if we just hire it out and say, you know what, we don't want to see the details, and when people ask us questions, we say, we don't know, we hired somebody to do that, and we never looked at it, and we never asked any questions about it. So that's all I'm trying to do, and is just have it reviewed, because it hasn't been reviewed.
let's go with Nelson. Hold on. And then, and then I'll have you clarify.
That's because the individual that was here earlier with the common citizens was in that capacity.
So let me,
I'm going to say, he's not a board member and he doesn't work for San Juan School
No,
District. So on our side,
I'm talking
I'm
about
out.
in the past.
Nelson's talking. Go ahead.
In the past, when we did the other schools, Colby was hired to do that.
He worked for us.
He worked for us. We don't have anybody in that position right now. That's why it's different.
well, let me clarify there too a little bit. Your maintenance director, your buildings and grounds director has been involved and was there. So Tom Carrillo has been involved, was part of the opening bid package and has been involved. We'd also hired an owner's rep, which has just been BDK months ago, who acts as the owner rep for us in construction management, project management, who has been involved with it, but not just the general contractor that did it all on their own. So there's been other eyes that we have reviewed it. Not to say that we can't continue, as we mentioned earlier, that can happen, but it's not that we haven't had any involvement or haven't had any say in anything. We certainly have, and we certainly have had review and people within the district that have had other eyes on it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just to back that up, at BK, we were involved with Westland to basically line by line review the bids as they came in. Tom was also involved in that process, but what I kind of wanted to just point out in this whole thing is that the way that this is set up is that the contract is with the San Juan School District is going to have is with Westland, but the San Juan School District is not going to have any contracts with any of the subcontractors.
Right.
And you understand that
Yeah,
process.
I do.
So Westland
Yeah,
has
thank
those
you.
contracts.
Mhm.
So they're the ones who are basically making that decision on their own. Mostly because they're going to be carrying the liability of that. If the project doesn't work out according to the schedule that's agreed to, and it's because of a subcontractor, I don't think that the San Juan School District Board wants to carry that liability on their own, right?
no, but just some oversight and some input. So
Mary?
as has been clarified, that nobody on the board or administrative, as in, that works directly under the board has had a part in that. And my only question is just and I think it was indicated earlier that wouldn't be a problem. We could review, that could be reviewed. And Nan Barton and I are both on the committee for Blanding Elementary. And we have all of us as board members have a responsibility to the public. And it shouldn't be, this feels like, no, nobody wants to answer these questions. Nobody wants anybody in the school district to look at this. Then that makes the public a little bit leery of what's going on. I'm not leery of it, but I'm starting to get to be now because people are like, oh, board members shouldn't be involved in this, or an administrator who works directly under the school board. But it's public money. It's a public school building. Let's just have a review before those are rewarded so that people feel better about a transparent process, because this all belongs to the public. It is not ours. It's not our own money. And there's a lot of interest in the public. So let's be transparent and.
Okay, Colleen, your turn.
So my question is, I guess to the board is, shouldn't that be an action item, whether the board wants to be that much more involved with what Westland is doing? All I would like to know is, if we want to review, can we get a copy of the contract or what Westland's? I'm not so much interested in micromanaging who's subcontracted, who's contracted, as opposed to that, because, obviously, if we go with Westland, they're more than capable of handling that part. And you've more than once clarified that. So I understand that, but for me, that would be a question to the board, is whether we want to make that an action item to be that much more involved in the Blanding Elementary School.
Go ahead, Nelson.
Board President, I would like to call for a cease for discussion, and there is a motion and a second on the floor. I want to call for a vote.
Okay. So to clarify, Eva, would you read the motion?
The motion is to accept the GMP as presented by Westline Contractors to Flanding Elementary School. The second motion was not, well, the amendment was not seconded, so it failed.
Yes. So this motion would be to accept the GMP. It's as simple as that. So, okay. So let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. All right. We are done with that item. Okay, I need a motion to, it's the evaluation committee, but I've got to go back up. To accept that evaluation committee, those nominees?
Those nominations.
Okay, so it's to accept those nominations that were in our executive content for this evaluation committee. So if I can get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the nominees for the evaluation committee.
Okay.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then our last one is our employee negotiation agreement for the 2024-25 school year, which we looked at. So if I can get a motion for that.
I move that the proposed employee negotiation for 2024-2025 be approved.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes. I'm concerned about the money that we're using from federal impact aid and not putting into the building reserve fund because the economy we have a poor economy and I don't see it turning around anytime soon. And the price of building or improving buildings, building buildings and improvements to buildings has gone up exponentially as well. And the price, I mean, the price of everything has gone up. And so I'm concerned about putting that money into ongoing salaries and not putting it into the building reserve funds.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, let's go to the information items. Superintendent.
Closed. Or you want me to?
Yes, and then we'll go to close.
Okay.
Yeah.
So information items, board meeting is June 19th. It will be here at the district office and broadcast virtually. You see that you have the graduation schedules attached. And then also an updated board administrative meeting schedule for the new school year that includes directors' meetings and principals' meetings. And then our last day of school will be May 24th. And then I also wanted you have this proposed groundbreaking schedule and the date that we're proposing for the groundbreaking will be May 29th. So you have an idea, we'll fill in the rest of the information as we figure out the details working with school administration and what that looks like.
Perfect. Okay, any other things? All right. We are going to make a motion to go on a closed session, so we will give you guys a few minutes to stay and look at our curtains or whatever you choose to do, but thanks for being here. And then Jared will let you get set up for a minute.
Motion?
We do the
Yeah,
motion.
we'll do it as soon as they leave. Oh, I guess,
So will we be coming back after close?
The motion.
we're gonna have to, yes, we've got to go in and out. But this is the thing, we can keep this open if we want, as long as, hey, thanks. Thank you for what you did.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. We could leave the whole room open since we'll be the only ones here, so you don't have to stay and keep taking us in and out. If you just want to put that it's, will that work?
We have to make a motion in public?
Yeah.
I thought, oh,